9 Dust, we are live. Hi, chats.
Y'all have no idea how much tech we worked through.
Okay, we're good. We can hear everybody. We can see
We're
everybody.
good. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I guess I'll kick us off. If you are unfamiliar of what is going on today here on Twitch.tv, members of the Twitch Women's Guild have been live doing various panels throughout the day about a variety of different topics. If I believe the command is, what is it?
It's like program.
Event? It'll give you
exclamation mark program.
If I do this one, yeah, it'll give us not my BTTV emotes. Oh my goodness. It'll give you all the different topics that have been covered, and if you guys want to see all of the different streamers that have been involved in the program, you can click into that Google Drive link, and it'll show you all the different folks who have been live today. But we are very, very excited to be here today to talk about activism and advocacy and all things making the world a better place. So yeah, we're excited to just have like a chill, fun time talking about the things that we are passionate about, the things that we care about. I mean, I don't want to speak for myself, but I know all of these lovely folks on the screen are incredible and are doing amazing, amazing work in their communities. And me personally is so excited to learn from all of y'all who are sharing this stage with me. I'm so excited. Do we want to do introductions?
Yes. That's my suggestion.
Yes. Amazing. Vashal, do you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry, I didn't expect to go first.
Really put you on the spot.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for including me on the panel. My name is Jamie Delphine. I'm also Transex Bombshell on every platform, including transexbombshell.com. And you can find me at twitch.tv/transexbombshell. My journey into advocacy for housing equity actually really took shape during my 4 years as the resident manager here in Los Angeles, where I took directly folks navigating the complexities of urban housing in a co-op. So today my passions evolved into my role. I now serve as the treasurer of the Beverly, Vermont Community Land Trust. And in my streams, I focus heavily on housing equity, looking at news on our Monday streams, news for people with a job. We look at how we can create permanent, like community-owned affordable housing. We talk about things involving trans rights, which is a deeply personal cause for me. I love using my platform to bridge the gap between like high-level policy and the everyday reality of what our neighbors are going through. And I'm so honored to be alongside all of you, all of these incredible women. That's pretty much me in a nutshell. And thank you for the support.
Do we want to do popcorn? Do you want to send it
I'm
off to
gonna
somebody
go
else?
with Ari. Oh, I don't hear you.
Oh, my love, you're muted on Discord.
Oh, hello, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you all so far. And a little bit on that same vein, I also have done a little bit of work out in LA, helping with tenants' rights and things like that. But my activism goes back a couple decades. I first was chosen to join an organization called Anytown through the National Conference for Community and Justice. That was because of a bias incident that happened to me when I was about 13 in high school, and they sent me to this leadership camp where I have been in love with it ever since. And what we do there is we take a bunch of high schoolers to a mountain. We take their phones, which is even harder these days than 30 years ago when it started. And we teach them about all of the isms, all of the ways that people can feel different, and how do we build community inside of that, no matter what things can make it seem like we are in different worlds. And so from there, I moved to Los Angeles, and the housing crisis there really, really broke my heart. And that's where I really launched into working with the Los Angeles Tenants Union. And also, yeah, also doing a bit with advocacy for the unhoused, and actually lived in one of the experiments to try to create housing that is mixed income from all levels. And it was, as an artist, I was there in a very special program. And then I helped them to create their first ever association, their tenants association. And so it was such a big deal to help them get power, help them get rights, because they were treated as if, they weren't paying as much as other people in Los Angeles, but that doesn't mean people should be treated any differently. And then beyond that, I've also done advocacy and activism in private education. I was actually featured in a New York Mag article for the Intelligencer on the for-profit schools with coding boot camps. I'm like, what is it called? With coding boot camps, and how a lot of them were very predatory. And some of the advocacy there helped lead to creating some organizations to help combat that and to help get us some more power back in that. After that, I've moved to Atlanta, and I'm now, funny enough, president of my HOA board, which is its own form of
Hell yeah.
advocacy and activism.
Given those spaces.
I had to, yes, I had to stand up and say, oh no, my experience before made me realize, wait, even now as owning my own place, there's still complexities that still have to be navigated, and power that we need to have together. So, I love the, the work of helping other people and to being creative to figure out how to make the world a more just and equitable place in every segment of society. So that is where my heart is, and that flows through arts and technology, which are two of my bigger passions, especially in the things I've worked in as well. So that's my background, and I would love to popcorn over to Shy.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Shy Carolina. You can just call me Shy though. Um, a lot of my advocacy has stemmed from my lived Indigenous experiences. I'm a Plains Cree Indigenous woman who is situated on Plains Treaty 6 territory in Saskatchewan, Canada. And so my whole life I've dealt with like racism and just a bunch of like systemic issues because unfortunately I do live in a very conservative province. So racism is still very prevalent here. It's really unfortunate. A lot of things have happened even in the past few years. So yeah, that's a big thing for me. When I talk about Indigenous issues in Canada, it's really important to start by recognizing that these aren't just like historical problems. They're ongoing lived realities for many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in Canada. Canada was basically built through like the processes of like the Indian Act and the Canadian residential school system. And these systems had aimed to control and assimilate and basically just ultimately erase Indigenous cultures and our ways of life. The impacts of these policies, they didn't really end at all when residential schools closed. And just a little not very fun fact, the last residential school to close in Canada wasn't until 1997. So that was that was only 4 years before I was born. So it's still really recent. And because of this, these issues continue to shape the outcomes in like areas of health, education, housing, and justice. One of the major issues in Canada, I would say, is the ongoing lack of clean drinking water in many Indigenous communities. I know that there is a reserve, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's in Northern Ontario, and they have had a water drinking advisory for over 30 years. So they still don't have access to clean water. So that's a big issue that I really advocate for, because my reserve had issues like that for 10 years at one point as well. Um, it just reflects like a deeper systemic issue, and like how resources and responsibilities are distributed throughout the government. And another like key issue of Indigenous issues is the overrepresentation of Indigenous peoples in the criminal justice system. So Indigenous people, they make up a decent percentage of people who are incarcerated, while we're only about 5 to 10% of the Canadian population. I think we sit at around 30% of people who are imprisoned are Indigenous, which is unfortunate. Which that also kind of ties into other issues like poverty, intergenerational trauma, and just barriers accessing education and employment. And then last but not least, the other little kind of thing that I'm really passionate about is violence, especially against Indigenous women and girls. Um, the crisis, it was formally recognized as a type of genocide by the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Because the amount of violence, like there's no other way to put it, they just say it for what it is. It's genocide. My mother was also a victim of attempted genocide as well. She was a part of the 60 Scoop. Back in the 1960s, they were taking little baby Indigenous children and putting them into white homes. And so then their cultures were erased. So my mom doesn't know much about our culture. Thankfully, she gave birth to me, and I've been getting us both back into it, reconnecting. And yeah, I've just tried to revitalize our culture the best I can and get a part of it and teach my mom and teach her she doesn't need to be ashamed to be who she is. So sorry that was a little lengthy. I'm just
Oh,
very
I'm gonna
passionate
cry.
about
It's
all
amazing.
that.
It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so much
thank
for sharing.
We just
you.
started. I can't be
No
crying this early. What the hell?
problem. No problem. No problem. All right, I will pass it on to Ray.
Hi everyone. I'm gonna apologize. My voice keeps going a little bit in and out because chronically ill baddie over here. But I am RayBay_plays on every platform. I am a variety streamer here, and I am also a type 1 diabetic on top of other chronic illnesses. But type 1 diabetes is my main platform that I do a lot of yapping about. I started when I was younger. I was diagnosed when I was the age of 3. I went into the New York State Capitol because I'm near Albany, and just started to yap to those people about how we needed funding, talked about stem cell research and all that what that was going on near the late 90s.
Thank you so much for the
And
follow.
yeah, so it kind of just spiraled from there because, I have arthritis, so I can't always go out to rallies and be on 2 feet on the ground. So I tried to enhance my digital platform to find other ways to fundraise not only for diabetes, but also other things I'm passionate about. Some other organizations I've worked with was SOSA, who is actually the full length of that name is Safe from Online Sex Abuse. So they work with local police departments, getting predators offline in a safe and ethical way, and helping the survivors after that. I have also chatted with people from hashtag why not Devon, which is about childhood cancer. So my main thing is that I just love taking these already strong voices, elevating them more, and just making sure that we're all here and living our best lives and everything else. So yeah, I'm going to pass it on to Morgana.
Oh, okay, thank you. Hi. I already told our lovely fellow panelists, but I'll tell chat now. I'm still kind of in the middle of moving, so neither my apartment nor I am presentable. So forgive the lack of a camera. Yeah, I'm Morgana. It's me, Mordred, on all the platforms that matter. My activism kind of experience kind of started when I was younger. My mama would kind of drag me out to a lot of protests where we would often get into what my mom calls the good kind of trouble. And my lovely supportive father would it never came to that, but he was always prepared to make bail. Um, when the need should arise. But truly, aside from that, I didn't really get my start until my education and career. I am a journalist. I am mostly a social justice journalist focusing on social justice coverage and reporting. My further niches are positive protest reporting, because a lot of media has a negative skew of protests and other advocacy, and how we break that down, how we kind of see through what is very obviously paid for by interest groups. But there's also media ethics. I studied a lot of media law and media ethics. Breaking news. My first ever news story was a breaking news story, actually. That was a fun one. Inclusive newsrooms. I can yap on hours about what it means to have an inclusive newsroom. I didn't even think about having to study such a topic until someone pointed out to me that assuming someone is from a diverse group doesn't automatically make them better at reporting on diverse topics. And after being told that, I was like, wait, yeah, you're right. So I did kind of end up doing a lot of studying about how to make a more inclusive newsroom environment for everyone who works with you. And I think that's most of my. Oh, and political analysis. That was kind of one of the big things I wanted to go into, as a kind of at the local and then like a larger level, analyzing and reporting on politics. And I'm still, unfortunately, as my chat will tell you, I'm insufferably knowledgeable about political analysis very often. I am two-time Society of Professional Journalists national award-winning runner-up. We ignore that part. Invited to their lovely convention in Washington, D.C. in 2022, I believe. The years get fuzzy. My first big break was about my own university's Title IX violations and reporting on that. And that was like a 2-year process I don't ever think ended, unfortunately, even after my tenure, followed by an expose on the unequal employment conditions for students who wanted to work on campus, mostly in food service. And then the school's inability to let anyone change their name for graduation ceremony and on their diploma, which was huge for transgender students. And then, cultures that had preferred like a shortened or longened name from what was on the record. And that was actually the one that made my school so mad they tried to sue me. Which is why I actually I don't ever say their name anymore, give them credit, because after that we had a bit of a falling out. Very awkward to shake the president of the university's hand when I left the university. After that, I went into the world bright-eyed, attempting to get into a nice publication. My rejection list is in the triple digits, despite my, I think, somewhat impressive background. And this year, I kind of just in January, I kind of just decided, screw it, and I was going to go freelance. So I've been working on my first video script. It's not published yet. Hopefully this month. I swear it's going to happen. My first official video script for it's going to be a 2-hour documentary, essentially, on the history of immigration enforcement in the United States. So you can be excited for when that gets released. Otherwise, as far as what I do digitally, I do a lot of political analysis on my platform as well. Not usually like intentionally. It usually happens when I'm playing an RPG or JRPG and there's like a lull because I'll just be in the middle of like a dungeon, and then me and my whoever is guest starring will just go into a topic and then go off about it for hours. It happened when we played Persona 3. We talked about immigration for like 2 hours while we were in Tartarus. I have a community Discord where a lot of just good discussion happens. A lot of bad discussion too, and I have to crack down on that. But a lot of good discussion and just conversation and communication where I often get to use my expertise, and other people get to use their expertise to have very constructive conversation, often having to break down each other's biases and how we might misunderstand the world at large. There's been countless times where either me or someone else will realize we've had something wrong just in figuring out through communication and talking. I have a huge soft spot for, even if it is the bad sort, communication, because it breaks down so many barriers when we just talk to each other. And I think, sorry, that spiel was like not well organized. I should have done more than bullet points, but I think that's about it. Oh, popcorn. Who hasn't gone? We went through.
I think it's just
Is it
me
Look,
that
Okay,
hasn't
then
gone.
You
yeah.
left.
now.
That was great.
Then yeah,
Amazing.
go.
Oh my goodness, how do I follow up on all of your wonderful accomplishments and accolades and incredible stuff? Oh my goodness. I'll try my best. um, Hello everyone. I'm Stella or Stella Joe. Here on Twitch, I do a lot of I guess cozy gaming, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, things like that, with a perspective on design. But I also do a lot of RPGs as well. So like Baldur's Gate 3. I'm in the middle of Expedition 33, which is ruining my life. And I'm currently addicted to Fields of Mystery as well. And I think similarly to Morgana, the sort of ideology pops up in the most unexpected places on stream. But my background in advocacy and activism really stems from my parents. I grew up here in New York City, and my parents actually met. They're not together anymore, but that's a whole other thing. But they met during the AIDS crisis here in New York City. They were involved in a lot of arts communities here, which really like were hit very, very hard in the 80s into the 90s by the AIDS epidemic. And they were part of an organization called Northern Lights, which specifically worked with women and children who were diagnosed with HIV, just giving them support and sitting by their bedside and holding their hand and not being afraid to, be in the same room as them, which was not the case with a lot of people who were interacting with people who were and are HIV positive and diagnosed with AIDS. Which the strides that have been made for that disease in the past just 30 years, it's like I will cry if I think about it too much. It's so incredible, the amount of people that can live undetectable and full, long, healthy lives. It's amazing, but it's on the backs of people like my parents and so many others who were on the ground here in New York, on the steps of City Hall, unfurling AIDS quilts in Washington, D.C. It's like I could talk for ages about it. It's really crazy how many people don't even realize that that was a movement that was happening either, because obviously it predominantly affected queer people at the time, and so it was really swept under the rug by the American government. I met people, literally full-grown, huge, big adults in college who had no idea, because they were moving to New York from places that just did not ever talk about it. And this was sort of like the backdrop of my like very young upbringing, alongside like anti-Iraq war protests and like anti-Bush protests and things like that, and like pride parades and stuff like that. And then growing up in college, I got my bachelor's in politics and human rights with a focus in gender and sexuality studies. I covered a lot of different topics there, everything from queer history to abortion rights to I took a series of classes called Reacting to the Past, which is basically just like historical role play, where we were put into different eras of history, and we took on roles of those eras. So we got to like rewrite the American Declaration of Independence, and a big one was we wrote the South African Constitution, and then spent 2 weeks in South Africa talking with students at the University of Cape Town and Wits University in Johannesburg, which is really, really amazing because folks my age in South Africa are they're called the generation born free, which is the first generation that basically came of age post apartheid. So truly astounding stories all around. And now a big part of my advocacy has centered around fighting against the idea that Judaism is equatable to Zionism in the midst of the genocide happening in Gaza. As a Jewish person, it's taken me, many strides and steps and like reconciling my upbringing, going into Jewish spaces, even though the Jewish spaces that I was in as a kid were pretty leftist, reform. I still grew up in a Zionist environment. And so unlearning and breaking those habits and really like coming to a core understanding of my being that like my anti-Zionism is fundamental to my Judaism. Like they cannot exist without the other. And working with organizations like If Not Now and Jewish Voice for Peace has really been like so core to my ethos and understanding of how I navigate the world as a Jewish person in this year of 2026. Yeah, that's basically me. It was also kind of word vomity, but we have so many different topics to cover, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys. Oh my gosh. Oh, and also one more thing. I know we said it at the top and it says it up there in the corner, but we are all members of the Twitch Women's Guild. And another way that I practice my advocacy a lot is supporting that space. Which, if folks don't know, the Women's Guild is a very, very large server on Discord, but we're all Twitch streamers from all different backgrounds, from all different styles of content. And the server is really a place where we can come together and collaborate. We can connect with one another. We can talk about these issues of like being women on the internet, and have like a really like truly like not only just a safe space but like a protected space for us to come together. And so this whole event is such a great opportunity for us to highlight like so many different voices from the guild. So yeah, this is so cool. I'm so excited. Shall we just jump right in? I'm gonna try to like throw out some questions, but I'm gonna also ask my fellow panelists to jump in and help me out
Can I
as well.
say something really quickly?
I wish you would.
I kind of launched right into activism, but I didn't say exactly what I do. But I'm not sure, Shai, if you said what you do, like for your stream and things like that.
I don't
And
think I
we're
did.
all
I
just
kind of
meeting
just
each other
rambled.
too. Yeah,
We're kind of figuring
we're all
this
just
thing
meeting
out.
each other too.
Yeah, this is my first guild thing, so I'm
My
nervous.
goodness.
Cool.
No
What a
worries.
wonderful
Yeah, if
first
you guys want to
thing.
share what you do on stream as well, so
Yeah,
people
go for it.
know to go follow you and what to expect. Go follow everybody. Chat.
I'll jump in. I do on Mondays. I do what I call news for people with a job. So anybody that doesn't have time to keep scrolling and constantly be doing everything, I try to just cover what's super
Scroll.
important, and then we all self-soothe and switch over to like gaming, something that we can
Oh, I
play,
love
community
that.
gaming or something.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's kind of like a good chunk of how I make sure to introduce my advocacy on stream. And then on other platforms, I will do some on the ground live protest coverage, IRL streaming and stuff sometimes as well.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's kind of how I introduce my advocacy a little bit. Obviously, I'm always, and I'm sure everyone here can agree, like you'll be playing a game and you're like, this is hyper capitalist. Like you can't help but like analyze it. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
The amount of times I've pulled out the Communist Manifesto while playing Stardew Valley.
Cyberpunk, I'm always just like, this is what's gonna happen. Like,
I love it. I love it. Shai, you want to talk about your background too,
Yeah.
or what you do currently on Twitch?
Yeah. So, I'm a part of the Indigenous Alliance here on Twitch. We don't really have a guild quite yet, but I know that is something that we have been working on, like getting started because there are so many Indigenous creators out there. So I definitely promote my Indigenous Alliance wherever I can. I've learned from streaming that a lot of people don't realize that Indigenous people, we still exist. We're still here. A lot of people don't realize that. When I meet new people, they're like, oh, I've never met an Indigenous person before. Like, you're the first. And I'm like, yeah, we're here. You gotta go to the right places. So a big part of me, like of my work, is just kind of just telling people like we're here. I'm a big follower of the land back movement, So I just share a lot of resources and stuff about residential schools and all of that. And I take part in Indigenous Alliance events where we help raise money and stuff for various Indigenous charities. We did do a raid train in November for Native American Heritage Month in the US, where we donated money to missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and people charity. So that was really awesome. Um, Other than that, it's mainly advocacy that I do. I'm a busy girl. I haven't had time to really take part in things recently. One of the biggest things that I have done though is back in 2019 to 2020. Um, there was like a big thing in Wet'suwet'en, BC, where they were trying to build a pipeline through ancestral land. And so there was protests going across Canada, and I was at one of them because I was in flight school in Ontario, and the reserve there, all of us got together. We blocked the train tracks. Because that's the only way you can get your point across is just by, unfortunately, inconveniencing the big corporations. Because when they're losing money, they want to do something because they don't want to keep losing money. Um, so yeah, I try to get involved as much as I can, but it's mainly just bringing awareness to Indigenous issues and just making sure that my community, they know all about it and they can kind of spread awareness themselves as well. But that's kind of my role in it all.
Shai, can I ask? I'm sure you are. You're on the Indigenous Alliance stream team.
Yes, I am. Yes,
So
I
it should
am.
show up if you guys go to Shai's channel below, like right at your about, it'll say Indigenous Alliance. I'm pretty sure. And
Yes,
there are so many awesome people on that stream team.
they are so
It's only a matter
amazing.
of time before the guild happens.
Yeah,
Come
it'll
on.
happen eventually. Like I trust it'll happen. We're very loud. We're making sure that Twitch knows that we are here, and I'm so thankful that all of the other guilds include us in like everything, like the guild games and stuff like that. We're always included, so it's really awesome.
Always take a note from Dolly Parton, and she's like, promote it like it exists, so they can't tell you no.
Exactly.
Promote it like it's
Exactly what we're
coming.
doing.
Just keep promoting. It's like, when the Indigenous Guild comes out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we say. That's what we say. It's just a matter of time.
It's just a matter of time. Real quick, I just want to tag onto that I'm involved with the land trust movement, and we fully support the land back movement. A big part of the land trust movement overlaps with the land back movement, and it's amazing to support you and your activism, and knowing that once land is in a land trust, and if Indigenous tribes are in charge of those land trusts, they're never losing it again. And that is absolutely a big part of what I help to support. And I'm just really grateful that there are, like the Twitch Indigenous Alliance. That's so vital. So thank you for your advocacy.
Definitely, no problem.
Absolutely. I can launch in here as well. My current things that I do on my stream are gaming, very variety, by the way, extremely variety. Where I used to be obsessed with like Fortnite and Apex Legends, and now I play a little bit of everything. One of my community members just purchased Beholder for me, and that is a very interesting game because it's very much talking about structures of society and corporate that you're navigating. And it's such a hard game for me because I'm like, oh, I want to do the right thing, but you can't win the game that way. So it's really, really an interesting take on seeing what their perspective of, very authoritarian regimes or very hardcore corporate environments are like. Outside of that, I am also a musician. I mainly
sick.
sing these days. Oh, yeah, yeah. And I'm like a music industry veteran through and through in a lot of capacities. Used to manage, was a tour manager, and different things like that. So one of my most recent pieces of content is I now do reactions, and those are also posted on YouTube. And so my reactions a lot of times then overlap with activism. It's like being from North Carolina, we have a very rich history through the civil rights movement and other different movements in America. And it's like I found out our governor was the first impeached because he stood up for people being mistreated in North Carolina. And then there's people like Nina Simone. And so that's something I do want to talk about a little bit later, the intersection of art and activism and how it's so powerful, but it can be so scary because the powers that be don't want to support that. And then they can shut off your access to radio, TV, because they own all of the avenues of those things. So when I'm reacting to music and I'm listening to lyrics, I'm also talking about how it intersects with really important things for culture, for society, for humanity, and how that all comes together. So that's a big part of my content right now.
Incredible. You do everything.
That's
You
awesome.
literally do everything.
Yeah,
She's
literally.
Passionate about a lot of things.
She said
And you
variety
all
and
are
she meant
She
it.
said, let me define variety for you.
Oh, and I cook sometimes on stream. It's rare lately.
She said
Yes.
variety.
No,
And she meant
literally.
it.
Literally,
In
jack of all
caps.
trades here.
For real. I
Too
love it.
funny. Y'all are
I
hilarious.
feel like I don't do enough now.
Got a
No,
checklist now.
Twitch is
Yeah,
open.
no.
Do anything you want
There's
on
still
Twitch. That's what
time.
I love so much too about it. Just you feel it, press go
And you know,
and do the
on that
thing.
note, like you're mentioning, like the powers that be own everything, and that's a big part of why I do the Monday news streams is because I'm not gonna have that filter, and I'm gonna have an analysis you're not getting on CNN or any of the other mainstream media.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. At some point, I
Mhm.
realized at some point that my main source of news had changed from like traditional outlets to like streamers. And I was like, oh, that happened so slowly. I didn't even realize it happened. Um, but I think it's so important because you don't have the network censors. You don't have anyone overhead telling you what you need to do, what you need to report on. I mean, literally the reason why I spent my last half year at school, like not working. Like I stepped down in like December to like focus on my studies. That's the excuse I used at the time. Was because like for one of my last like ever news articles back when I was a lead editor, I got like pressured by like the school like appointed advisor to not publish something, uh, which still kind of haunts me and follows me to this day. And when you're independent and you're like on Twitch, assuming Twitch itself doesn't like take action against you, which unfortunately is always a worry, you don't have that like overhead person who can just say, no, that doesn't go with what our views are, or and there's no editorial team that's like telling you what you can and can't say and allowing while simultaneously allowing horrible like articles that are just untrue. Looking at you, New York Times trans coverage. To go through. So that's one of the reasons why I love all these independent platforms. On top of the fact that you can just do anything, you can just do anything. The amount of like this is outside of the scope of like our activism, but the amount of like high concept stuff I've just done on here that's not like it doesn't fit into any group is and it's always the most fun content I've done. Honestly, is wonderful. That's why I love independent contracting platforms.
Well said.
Yes, I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, Ray, did you say what you do on stream?
I didn't. I was letting everybody get through because
Your
I
turn,
said
your
a little
turn.
bit, but I said I was variety, but I'm not as much a variety as Ari. But I started Twitch during shutdown, literally with a PlayStation and the PlayStation camera.
I did that.
I was playing Dead by Daylight
Same.
and just talking about diabetes because, of course, that's just like my thing. To Breakthrough on their channel, they have a joke that I'm like the number one hype woman for them because I just like don't shut up about them. But on that vein, a lot of the stuff that I talk about while doing like I do a lot of Sims games, Power Wash Simulator, Animal Crossing, stuff like that. So it's easier for me to chat because I am like a neurodivergent girly also. Like I can't focus and talk. So I play a lot of those games. I've played Fortnite. I've done the grand scheme. But my big thing that I like to do is what I call support something Saturday. So I pick a month where I educate myself on the charity that I would like to talk about for the next month. And then for that month, I raise the money and talk about it. And we have a specific Saturday where it's just like big goals, big stuff like that. So it could be a variety of us cooking dinner. Also, it could be I say we because my husband. I do a lot of my charity work with him too. So we could be cooking together, we could be playing games together. I tried to get other streamers involved. One of the big ones when I did the Why Not Devon stream, literally 2 of my friends got married after that stream because they met each other during that. So yeah.
So
So a
cute.
lot. Yep,
That's so
and it was
sweet.
because my friend Britt was the killer in Among Us, and so who she's now married to, accused her of murder, and she's like, "It wasn't me." And then he's DMing me on
Oh
the
my
side, being
gosh.
like, "Hey, is she single? Can I?" So yeah, so it was really funny that they got set up that way. So
So
activism can
cute.
also be, matchmaking in some ways.
Yes, bring
But
Honestly,
yeah,
people together.
which is how my husband and I met because he is also type 1 diabetic. So we met through Breakthrough and stuff like that. So
Nice.
it's very family
wow.
oriented over here in this house. Like my parents set me up first to do it, and then now with my husband, yeah.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Cool. So
Absolutely amazing.
I think we should dive into some of the topics that we have sort of listed out on our planning document. Who would have guessed that a bunch of activist organizers would have a planning document to work off of.
I just also have to
Um,
say something that I forget about my activism is ADHD visibility, and I'm sure other
Oh
people can relate to that. I always forget that part because I have ADHD.
Classic. um, Amazing. Well, I think I one of the first things that I put on to talk about here was sort of how to build out your toolbox, your toolkit. So we've talked a little bit about like ways that we're involved in our local communities. We've talked about ways that we're involved in our digital communities. Um, I want to pass it over to, let's start with Shy, if you don't mind. I would love
Okay.
to hear, was there a specific moment when you realized your voice, your actions could impact someone's material conditions?
I feel like it's something I realized when I was a teenager and I got really into learning more about my culture because, again, with my mom being in the 60 scoop, I grew up in foster care for most of my life, so I wasn't really raised around my culture. But when I got to high school, my first boyfriend was also Indigenous, and so he started bringing me into like our cultural stuff. Like I started going to powwows again and sun dances and sweats and I had had other friends as well who just felt like imposter syndrome, much like I do even to this day, where, oh, maybe I'm not native enough to be talking about these things. But that's exactly what they want us to think. That's exactly what the government kind of set out to do, unfortunately, in Canada from the start of Canada. So I just talking to my friends and then, telling them like it's okay, you can still make a change. You can still your voice can be heard. So I'd say it definitely like it was when I was a teenager and just getting my friends involved into like we learned about our culture again together. And then also just I didn't really do too much advocacy when I'd start streaming on Twitch because I was just playing video games and I didn't realize how many Indigenous creators there actually are on the platform because I didn't know the Indigenous Alliance existed until I was playing Dead by Daylight and one of the girlies, she had raided me and she was like, join the Alliance, like now. And from then on, I've been a huge advocate for all of our rights and just kind of informing people. Yeah, your words, like I just say, like, yeah, your words, just your words and your actions really can just impact people, to really get involved. Like I've convinced people to join the Indigenous Alliance as well. Like, because again, it's like imposter syndrome for a lot of us where again, we don't feel like we're native enough to do any of this, but it's just conversations like these that, kind of help open up the conversation.
Definitely. Yeah, I love the sort of coming together of like people outside of your cohort, your community saying like you're not enough, you're not you don't know enough, you don't have enough experience, et cetera, which I feel like also sometimes people can think about like the call can sometimes come from inside the house of like within activist groups, people think like, oh, I don't have enough experience or I don't know enough about this topic or something, but it really can like start so small and like just to say this, like, everybody is enough. Like, of course everybody is enough. And it's like, we all start somewhere. We all start knowing nothing, really. So
I would love
there's
to
always
jump
more to
in on that
learn.
vein, because
Yeah.
it really can be the smallest thing, and if you pay attention and you use your voice, it can really change things. And I can tell you my story based on that. I was a resident in an apartment in Los Angeles in Koreatown, and I had noticed that the new building management company that had purchased the apartment building first fired the manager that was managing the building. And it was a Latino woman that was with her daughter. They lived alone, and I saw them walking down the street. She was like crying, carrying a box, and I'm like, what happened? And I loved her. She was a great manager. Then things went south. They started turning off the power all the time. They started turning off the water all the time. I started noticing some doors had more notices on them than others. And I started asking questions, and I kind of got friends with the new manager who made a statement to me, and I will never in my entire life forget it. She told me she was the cleaner for her company, and she was sent in to target undocumented and disabled people and to harass them to the point they would move out and they could raise the rent on the apartment. And this infuriated me. And I did a little research. I found a reporter in the LA Times that was working on a story about the company that had just purchased our building. And I reached out to the reporter, and long story short, he put me into contact with a nonprofit that does legal work. And I ended up the key witness in one of the largest housing federal discrimination cases still settled here in Los Angeles. I can't give too many more details because as settlement of the agreement, I can't name the company. But there was housing that had to be given. There was a huge settlement. People got to keep their housing. And it was because I paid attention and just noticed that something was off. And I can't say more than just like pay attention, start with what's immediately around you. What would you like to change? What's wrong? And really, you can really start from there. You can change so much just starting from there.
Mm-hmm.
Can I actually I want to jump off of that on a different, you're saying like noticing something that's wrong. I think it's also important to acknowledge that, like, I'm sitting here talking about how much I love Breakthrough, but I also call Breakthrough out on their stuff of like when they're not doing stuff that the community would love them to do. So I think on the same vein, like activism could be you saying, I don't agree with what you're doing as an organization that's supposed to be helping us. It doesn't have to be, millions of dollars spent or, giving your own money. It could just be reaching out and saying, hey, like you're saying this one thing, but also like you're doing this other thing and not funding these programs and stuff like that.
That happens all the time at my DSA chapter. Oh my God. The New York City Democratic Socialists, they love to say, we have to change so many things all the time, but it's all part of it.
I've spent my time at DSA. I've definitely organized there.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear Aries' perspective, especially you mentioned your correct me if I'm wrong, recently joined your HOA board, which is like I would say the localist of the local types of involvement. So I'd love to hear more about how you got involved in that or other sort of more local programs for you.
Absolutely. It was one of those things where I was handling some things for family out of state. So I was not really involved with the local community as much because I had just purchased my home and was just, moving in. And you're not going to think that there is a lot of things beneath the surface that are happening until you really step out there and you start to learn more about the things going on. And so that was definitely a thing of being in group chats with people in the community and just hearing, different people talking about things. And I'm the type of person, if I hear a problem for long enough, I'm going to try to figure out a solution for it. I don't like to just sit with that feeling and energy. And I think that's also kind of what turns us into the activists sometimes is how much we can be uncomfortable and when are we going to do something about it. And so for me personally, I heard enough And the previous board was actually appointed by the builder of the community. And so, yeah, that's how it
No.
normally works. I was new to a lot of this too, where the builder chooses the people who become the board, and then you're supposed to have elections after that. Exactly. But there are concerns with the homes that were built, and then the people he chose seemed really buddy buddy, and like they weren't going to do the thing to stand up to make things better. And then I know me. And so I said, okay, let me, with my community organizing, I've done that before. The building I organized in LA was 100 units. This is only 29 homes. So I said, oh, easy peasy. No. And
Big
so
building.
I started to, yeah, I just started to talk to people. I said, hey, what is it you want? What is it you need? And then I think that's also where it starts when you realize that if you have ideas, share them and then see what happens. And this is the most recent iteration of that, but I'll say even when I was very little, I started to stand up for people. But it's also because I come from a family that were very justice oriented or justice affiliated growing up. So before I started school, I had a feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to do stuff for society to help them just because that's what my family had been doing for generations. It's like my grandfather, he desegregated the police force in North Carolina as one of the first Black officers and probably one of the first Black detectives. And it's like back in his day, like they wouldn't even let him have a police car or a gun because they were like, no, 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 we don't trust you like the rest of our officers. And instead, it was one of the most important moves because then you want people who are associated with the community to be in policing of that community because you're more likely going to have equitable
Right.
outcomes. Yes, absolutely. And so there was that. And his brother was the first Black fire chief. And I have a cousin who's a judge. And so it was all of these things growing up. And I started speaking out very early, and I was in trouble a lot, which is also a reality, especially for little Black girls in America. And I thought it was just me until I was an adult and telling another friend about it. And she says, oh, I was in trouble too all the time. I was like, but we weren't bad kids. Why were we in trouble? But it's because of societal things that want to get rid of this culture inside of us that speaks up about injustice, and we've been doing it for so long. And so it was very, very young that I spoke up, and teachers would put me in timeout, and I would tell my mom would say, what did you do? And I said, oh, well, teacher said this and I disagreed with it. And she's like, Erica, which is my name, by the way. She's like, Erica, after a couple of years, she was finally tired of it and said, okay, when you're at school, the teacher gets to tell you what to do. As long as it's not anything too far and outside of what you think is right. And so it was definitely a thing of just childhood. Then high school, I was in the organization that I was telling you about with teaching the high schoolers. And that is something we do. We try to help them open their eyes. We do very intentional things to help them understand authority and to understand that authority is only what we put into power. We can change that at any time. And we put them in these very interesting scenarios to make them have to take a look and notice if people are being treated differently in the camp, in different activities that we do, just so they get that muscle and then they're able to step forward when the time is necessary to maybe do or say the thing that they're seeing is needing to be said. So yeah, that's a little bit of
That's
all over
awesome.
Very,
I
very
love that.
well
life.
said. Just everyone here so well
Aw.
I just want
spoken.
to say, yeah, it's really awesome. I will jump into more questions, but also I just want to point out that we just got a couple raids from previous panelists. So hello, welcome in, raiders. I hope your panel was
Welcome
amazing.
in.
And also hi if you're seeing us on the homepage. We are up on the front page carousel right now for the next hour. So if you're just finding us for the first time, hello, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Man, amazing. Ari, you're so. I want to listen to you read the phone book. Oh my God.
Yeah, we have so many legacy
Literally.
organizers too.
Literally.
These are organizers
It's awesome.
from lineage. Like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It really is a learned practice. Like it's really important to have folks that are from previous generations that are teaching us the ways. It's so important to sort of see where we've come from because we're not out here alone and like we're working on the backs of so many who have come before us in so many different ways. But this is a great segue to bring it into sort of the modern age, though. Obviously, getting involved in person, I believe, is like so important. But we have this amazing thing called the internet.com, where we can get involved
internet.
in ways like this, like on stream and across the airwaves, the web waves, whatever you want to call it. So I'd love to hear from Ray, if you don't mind, because you put in this topic about getting involved digitally. I would love to hear sort of your process about how you have gotten. I mean, we've already talked about how you've sort of gotten your start doing digital advocacy, but if you have any like advice, guidance for folks that are wanting to get involved digitally, especially for people like who have mobility issues, limited mobility, live in super rural areas, can't get involved in causes because they live in more conservative areas. How do you think they can contribute to important movements that they care about from home?
Yeah, I think one of the important things is to, like we were just saying, there's so many people that have done this stuff before. So a lot of those people are willing to have that conversation about what they've done before, or even like working with the actual organizations like SOSA, who I spoke about earlier. They weren't even on any, like they were on Instagram, they were on Facebook, and they had a TV show, but they weren't in part of the like charity Tiltify and stuff like that. So I had reached out and I was like, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? And I didn't even expect an email back. And then I got like 6 people emailing me being like, we'd absolutely love that. We're going to set it up. So I think just like jumping in, like if there's a spot that you feel comfortable jumping in, like that would be the first initial thing that I would do. And then exactly what I did when I came on here and I started streaming and I was like, hey, I want to reach out to Breakthrough. Is there actually a team that's already set up? And that's how I met my husband. Was he happened to be part of the team already, and I just found him live. And it's just I think a lot of times, and I do this myself, I'm an anxiety girly too. We have this like big idea that we think is not we're not able to conquer because of whatever reason. We kind of chatted about that before too. We were doing this panel. But I think just saying to yourself, I can do this, my voice is worthy, and just figuring out what avenue, like I said, whether it is reaching out to the organization themselves, whether it's reaching out to another streamer who's done it. I mean, I even, like, I say this to everybody, if you want to just swing some ideas by me, like DM me, I will gladly listen. I went to school for social work and art therapy. So like I am, all ears, all open. I'm gonna talk about the art therapy stuff when we get to the art section because I think that's also important. But yeah, just like wherever you're comfortable, like just jump in, and go from there.
Amazing.
Start with what exists. Like not
Yeah,
everybody has
for
to
sure.
start something new.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll tell you, I forgot to mention this, but I work for an education nonprofit here in New York City, which we provide creative writing workshops for kids of all ages, and we publish their work into books. And I have had that exact conversation with her name is Brittany. She works at the American Heart Association, and she's part of the live team that was at TwitchCon and does a ton of advocacy work for the AHA here on Twitch. Yeah, reach out to nonprofits. like
Yeah.
we want to hear from you. Our inboxes are open.
When I was the witness in that housing discrimination case, if I hadn't have just reached out to that nonprofit who was already doing the work, like I would have had to start from scratch and do all this extra work. Like it's great to reach out and just be like, who's already on this?
Yeah, definitely. I want to also ask this question to Morgana. I want to hear about, you said that you were starting to do some video work just on your own, but as an independent journalist, what is your sort of perspective on the digital journalism space and how we can use articles and different avenues of journalism to sort of get our messages out there.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly important. Just like we live in a digital age where information has never moved faster. We used to have to wait for the the press to actually print things, and now you press a button and it's out there and it's everywhere. And sometimes that's for the worse, actually. Even um, I think it's just so important to be a voice and to provide that information and to just put that information out there. I mean, especially because it takes nothing to start a Substack. Like the for again for better or for worse, uh, the barrier to entry for becoming a independent journalist is the lowest it's ever been. Um, Especially in a time where if you can like hit your audience and like get your stride, you can really make something out of it. Not like as if you have to get something out of it. It's important regardless, but obviously reaching numbers is important when you're doing journalism. And people don't realize if you want to like do this, because we're kind of talking about like being in remote, rural, conservative areas earlier. Um, there's still so much to do out there too. Like we act as if
Mm-hmm.
there's no activity outside of activity centers. We act as if like population centers and urban areas are like everything. And that is true if you want to go to like organized events often, because there might not be, but that doesn't mean that there's not already a ton of work to do. Especially because when you realize that the like most common barrier is class barrier, and conservative and rural areas have that in common with a lot of us. Um, that's a lot of the time where you can make your in with actually making good change in these areas that otherwise, um, often get seen as just not having these access to like activist events, right? Um, like I guarantee you, because we have, I mean, a great example is we already have like people with like tenants unions in here and just doing housing stuff, and that's just as prevalent in the middle of nowhere as it is in your big cities. Um, but on the other side, on the creating side of that, if you want to, instigate that change through spreading your voice, you can do that just as much out where you are, just going out and recording and making important conversation and putting that to paper. Well, not paper, putting that to a Word document or a Google document. Um, because all perspectives matter. Um, you you going out and talking to your neighbors about how they're able to pay for everything each month is just as important as you going out and talking to the people at like a protest rally. And it might not always seem like that, but it all perspectives are important. I mean, and some of us get uniquely positioned because of those situations we're in, right? Like honestly, how many big like productions have you seen for like independent like journalists and news about like doing like rural like coverage? Like I feel like most of like, because I once again I'm biased, my most of my news I get through like Substack articles or like personal like websites or through Twitch. And they're always going to they're always in cities. Like we're always looking at like the most recent one I remember was LA protests with ICE, and then we had same in Portland. And like coverage of those is so important, but we're never seeing like similar coverage of ICE in rural areas either, are we? I feel like. And I think it's so important to just get this all like perspective eye. Um, and just realizing that the barrier to entry is so low, and sometimes the voice that you feel is missing, you can fill it. I tell this to a lot of people are like, oh, it's just like no one's doing anything out here. You could be. Like it's scary to go it alone. It's scary to go in. You don't always end up being alone, is the thing. You start to realize there's a lot of people where you can't see them because you just aren't looking. So I think, yeah, just it's so I keep saying it's just so important, but it is.
It is so important. I love that. Yeah. I think that's a really, really important like point that I just want to like nail on the head is that like these issues are important to people like no matter where they are, and I definitely think like you bringing up the tenants union is like a key example of that, because I have met some folks that, hey, we do not agree on a lot of political issues.
Mhm.
They voted for Donald Trump 3 times, but we're in the union together because, we both have to, support our material conditions and our living conditions and make sure our heat stays on and stuff like that. Like at the end of the day, like we underneath all of the sort of divisive topics, like it's important for us to live and thrive and live well. It's a really, really important point that you brought up.
Yeah,
I don't want to move on
on that
from this topic
vein,
too
real
quickly.
quick,
Yeah.
I want to point out something very important because we're talking about getting involved like from a distance. And I hate to compare it to this, but it's one of the clearest examples that I've always heard is that like for every frontline soldier, there's like 10 support personnel, like people driving trucks, people cooking food, people doing the laundry. And you don't necessarily have to be on the front lines per se. So get in where you can contribute, and that is enough.
Definitely. And I think we'll talk more about that when we get into sort of like the self-care of it all, because I know that's a topic that's really important to many of us.
That'd be a good
And I
place.
think, yeah, we'll circle back, put a pin in that one.
Done.
Because I definitely want to circle back to that. Cool. Did anybody else want to talk about sort of like digital involvement that didn't get to speak?
I'll say a little bit.
Sure.
And it's piggybacking off of everyone. It's just starting with what you're comfortable with, I think is another way to think about it. Because when it comes to some things, just like you were saying, Bombshell, like you can feel like, oh, I need to do all the things, but it's just a conversation. It is literally having a talk with maybe someone who thinks differently from you, especially if it's in a way that you can build your own compassion. I don't believe all opinions on everything should always be shared just because some people are a little more trying to be contrary or trying to be harmful. But outside of that, if you can find someone who you genuinely think has a perspective that you haven't heard of before, or that you could learn something, I think that's sometimes not discussed as much. Our learning, our development, before we also think we're prepared to just step up and do different things. Maybe collaborating and figuring out how we share so many of the issues that we have as just humans, right? And then from there, we can figure out how to build together. And then, if necessary, build new things. But there's so many organizations, and you just want to get involved instead of maybe just only sending money or only being there from a distance. Try to learn a little bit more about them and seeing how you can give manpower to, if possible. So yeah, just don't think that you don't have anything valuable to give or to sow into someone else's mind or into your own. And then from there, we can all keep building toward the more perfect union, hopefully, sooner than way, way, way down the line.
We can
Please.
hope.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there. I think that I'm kind of jumping a little bit in our doc, if that's okay. But I would love to just jump right off of that point about sort of like learning and growing and how we can sort of better our understanding. I put this topic on here about reading. Just because I think it's so important to sort of like read some fundamental texts. So I was curious if we could. I'd love to hear from everybody on this topic, but I would love to hear about like some a text, some text that helped shape your ideology, your understanding. Yeah, I love to expand my TBR. So so I want to hear what I should be reading from you guys. Um, would anybody like to go first? Anyone have anything off the top? Ari, yeah, go
I can
for it.
start.
Yeah.
Most recently, I was in a book club and we read Martin Luther King's last book, which doesn't get as much push as a lot of his other works because a lot of people want to try to just make it so that it ends at the dream speech where we're all just, equal and everything is rosy on the outlook. His final book was called Where Do We Go From Here? Community or Chaos? And it was him saying, oh no, there is more work to be done, a lot more work that he didn't realize at times when he was a little more rosy in his outlook of what's happening in America. And instead, it was, hey, we actually can have it in theory, an idea of how equality and equity works. But if it doesn't actually give concrete solutions and ways for people to actually increase their like livelihood or their chances of surviving in the world, what does it really mean? And so it was more of a thoughtful piece of saying just because, someone may want to be an ally, what is the actual fruits of the labor, because there's a lot of people in speech that are going to say different things, but how do we genuinely get to the next level? And when we figure that out, it helps everyone. I don't think that was ever his goal to just say, oh, let's help this one group of people. It was how do we help the world? If we help everyone who is suffering on a class basis, right? That's also why they didn't like this book, because he wasn't just about Black American rights and things like that. It was how do we start universal basic income? How do we make sure, and now we're in the age of AI, right? Where it's like I was a software engineer and now the industry is a mess right now. How do we make sure everyone's going to have their basic income needs met? And they didn't like that he was talking more about class and income at that level. So that was really transformative to me and a really, really great read if anyone is looking for something to read. And the audiobook is amazing, by the way. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of MLK's work has been sort of like sanitized to take that class message out of it.
Very
Yes.
cherry picked, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, yes, I saw some folks in the chat asking for the title one more time. That's Where Do We Go From Here?
Oh.
Chaos or Community by Martin Luther King, right?
Absolutely. And I'll put that in the chat as well.
Sweet. Yeah. I think Bombshell put the Wikipedia page for it in the chat, which is
Oh,
super
perfect.
awesome.
Thank you. Perfect.
Very quick with the details.
Yes, love
On
it.
it.
I
Shai, did you want to go
Absolutely.
next? I'm just going to go through
Yeah, go.
my Discord.
Sure. One of the books that I read during Native Studies class when I was, I think, in 10th grade, it definitely kind of helped shape the way that I, see myself and like my culture. It's a fictional book, but it does have like strong themes about like identity and poverty and racism. It's called The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, and it's by Sherman Alexie. And it's basically just about like the reason it's called that is because a lot of like how I was saying earlier, a lot of Indigenous people, they do have a lot of imposter syndrome, I feel, just with all of the genocide that's gone on, blood quantum levels being like a whole thing, which is unfortunate. But that book, it really just it talked a lot about identity and belonging amongst young Indigenous youth and how we deal with racism and poverty and hopes and dreams and them being crushed and uplifted, and it's just a really awesome book. And there's a lot of like art within the book, and I know we're going to touch on art after, but a lot of it is just they use it as like a form of like resilience. But the story is just super touching. It is like a bit of a hard read sometimes, just because of like the themes in it and the terms they use. Because as most people know, we don't use the term Indian for us anymore. So I know some people are a little iffy about that. But at the end of the day, that is what we were considered, you know, for as long as we've been here. As soon as, you know, America was formed, that's what they called us. So it's kind of a word that we've decided to kind of take back ourselves in a way. And, you know, like people don't use it in a nice way normally. So I would highly recommend that book if you guys are looking for something that's like, it is a hard read, but it's not that long, and I genuinely would recommend it if you do want to learn more about the lived Indigenous experience.
Yeah, that sounds great. The hard reads are important reads. You gotta
Exactly.
you gotta read them. Amazing. Ray, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so a couple of my things were from college also. I went to a women's college, so we got to pick a lot of the stuff that we got to study, which was super nice. One of them that I was reading towards the end was Disability Visibility. So it's like a collection of stories. It's by Alice Wong. I had to look it up, so that's why I'm looking over here. Sorry, guys. um, but it's first person accounts of people that are in the disability sector, whether they are advocating, whether they are disabled themselves or whatever it is, the story of healthcare and stuff like that. Another good one, which I also had to look up, so I'm sorry if I'm looking over here, but this one I read my first year of college, which was Emergent Strategies, Shaping Change, Changing Worlds. So I can't find who the author was, but that one we discussed like what we wanted to research for the year and stuff like that. And this was all about how the world itself shapes once you start putting your own knowledge into whatever is happening. So this was a really good read if you're just in general looking for how you can help shape the world and stuff like that. But if you're looking for more like disability, stuff like that, the Disability Visibility book is a very good one.
Amazing. I can go next if that's okay.
Let's do it.
One book that well, it's a book, but it's a collection of essays. Forgive me. Um, it's called "This Bridge Called My Back." It's writings by radical women of color. The editors of it are Cherry Moraga and Gloria Anzaldúa, and like the way that this book like changed my brain chemistry a little bit, like the stories presented are so powerful, and it was written at a time where there was really a shift in the feminist movement from these like identity politics to politics of difference, and really acknowledging the true intersections that women of color experience. And how it had at the time been so left out of the feminist conversation, especially after like The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir and like The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan were like the quintessential feminist texts. Like this book really like challenged a lot of those perceptions around like which women are allowed to talk about like being at the table. And Cherry Moraga, Gloria Anzaldúa, Audre Lorde, like all of these like incredible voices, queer voices, are they have such like their writing is so what's the word I'm thinking of? It's full of so much imagery and full of so much like really powerful emotional weight behind their words. So highly recommend. If anybody wants it, I have it in my Google Drive.
I've got a solid recommendation that I actually got from DSA. It was a DSA reading circle that recommended this book. I'm in Los Angeles, so it's a Los Angeles focused book. Got it right here. Set the Night on Fire. LA in the 60s. It's by Mike Davis, John Wiener. This has and by the way, you want to talk about hard reads? You got to do the hard reads. It goes over. If many people aren't aware, there was a raid at a gay bar here called the Black Cat Tavern that happened even prior to Stonewall here in Los Angeles. A raid by the cops that went in, arrested people just for being queer. Also during the 60s, we had the farm workers movement. We had obviously the civil rights, but like there's so many intersecting things happening, and this book really is just a really good overview, just like of everything that was kind of going on in LA at the time. Very galvanizing time, and I'm gonna use one of the things you just said. It kind of changed my brain chemistry reading it. Huge recommendation.
Amazing.
Big recommendation on that one.
Nice. And Morgana, do you want to give a recommendation?
Yeah, you've kind of opened a huge can of worms because you've asked the girl who spends all of her free time reading.
Hell yes.
For reading Rex. So I've narrowed it down as much as I can. I got really overzealous, and I originally had a list of 15 that I narrowed down as much as I could. Most basic bitch answer I could give. This was my first introduction to reading theory at all, but I still think it's very prevalent to mention is any of Judith Butler's works. Again, like really basic, but like my first ever introduction to theory was Gender, Trouble, and Bodies That Matter. It's really important for like it's just huge like introductory like theory about like our bodies and our identities as being queer. Bodies That Matter did so much for me in like deassembling like a lot of notions about our own bodies and the structures they are. When I had to read in college that I fell in love with was Intersectional Chicana Feminisms by Sitio Linguas, which is just a general history of like feminist movements in Mexico and like in Texas for the Chicana movement. That was a very important one. Kind of bridging into that, it's also a fiction, but The World in Half by Cristina Henriquez is a book very much about a biracial woman kind of rediscovering like her own identity and kind of getting over imposter syndrome as she kind of like goes down her family line. And it's really huge to me as a biracial Mexican woman who's had to go through a lot of like imposter syndrome in spaces, kind of every space,
Hi,
honestly.
Crazy Dad. So good to see you. Thank you for
That's
stopping by.
the whole, yeah, that's the whole thing of being biracial is like not fully feeling like you have both feet anywhere. You're kind of always straddling a line. And then my last one, also fiction, hugely relevant right now, but I always bring it up because I think it's really important, is Persepolis. This was a graphic novel, so it's not quite the same as the others format-wise, but it's really important, speaking about identity and gender norms, while also being in a very volatile, violent setting, and that kind of also goes hand in hand with when your own like country or person of being are under attack.
One of my
Like,
favorite graphic novels.
I like how you gave variety.
Yeah, totally. Amazing. Well, I think that sort of segues really nicely into our conversation that we want to dive into about art and activism. So we touched on a couple different novels, but also we have here so many folks that are involved in creative spaces. I love to start with Ari because I know you were the one that first brought up in our group chat, saying like I want to talk about art. So I'm curious your thoughts on how can we use creativity and art to overcome sort of the more infographic fatigue, and make people care about the causes that we're passionate about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, I think art in all of its forms are great avenues and ways for people to get another message that is a little more palatable that they may not have access to otherwise. There are plenty of people who don't watch the news, who don't have these conversations. But then as soon as there's someone who I believe it is a boldness to speak on different things that are important and put it in your art when you know it's going to possibly turn away a lot of people. Even with streaming is a form of art. And some people refuse to talk about politics because they know people won't want to discuss that. But I think that when we add it with gaming in the middle of a game, like we have this thing happening, or we put it in our music or in our paintings, it really just helps to have very important topics that also can give us a little more insight into each other, into the current state of the world, and hopefully the future we're all hoping to get to. I also want to say a little bit about how I first learned about arts in activism and how that all kind of inspired me too. And I mentioned before, like Nina Simone. And some people just know her from her very unique voice and some songs like Sinnerman and a few others. But she was one of the first like blackballed from radio because she's talking about things that were happening in the civil rights movement that she felt needed to be shared. And that song is still around. Like people still know it's the song about Mississippi. I can't say the full title because it's that powerful of a situation. Yes, it's just remembering that to take those risks can also pay off in the end, really, because yes, we want to speak to as many people as possible. But when we say something important, that also creates a space where our art could live much longer than we do. And then we're going to reach even more people throughout time because we're saying something that's important. And so I just think it's wonderful to consider for anyone that is looking for a way to approach it that may not like how it can feel uncomfortable or to have these serious of conversations. Put it in your comedy, like in the good way. Put it in your comedy. Put it in your song writing, your games. Like there are games that have come out recently that have really kind of dabbled into it a little bit, and we can do so much more with that too. But I think it's such an important vehicle to keep talking about the things. Oh, and I mentioned Nina Simone also because she had a really important phrase to me. She said, I believe it is the responsibility, and I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, but I believe it is the responsibility of artists to talk about their current situations that they are in their lives, because some people feel like, oh, you should only make music to make people dance or to make them happy. And she says, no, the work of the artist is to talk about the human experience and the condition. Because if we don't talk about it, it's more and more going to be erased from time with the people who control a lot of the things that control history, right? History is the desired, curriculum that the people in power to produce those things would like it to be. So we have to keep it in our art and pass that down, sing the songs with our friends and remember it and give it to the next generation. It's like there's a song my grandmother would sing to me, and it says, we'll understand it better by and by. And I'm pretty sure her grandfather sang that to her, and he was formerly enslaved in America. So it's like there are different pieces of art that can speak through so many generations, and then I will sing it to all the babies I can sing it to as well. So I just feel like it is a important thing, and it is an important vehicle to spread more about what we're all experiencing, and it brings more life and truth to our experiences that then we can build off of and make solutions for in the future.
Absolutely. I'd love to just jump on a piece that you mentioned. You threw it out like so quickly, talking about comedy, which is so funny because comedy, but also funny because I was just talking to someone at my job. One of the workshops that our kids are doing right now is called "What's the Deal," and they're doing comedy writing. And
Ooh.
Yeah, and one thing that I was talking about with one of our volunteers who is a professional comedian, and she has a podcast called War Sucks, an anti-war podcast. And she does a lot of like political commentary within her comedy. But one thing that our kids are running into is this sort of friction between wanting to talk about more serious topics, but not knowing how to be funny about them. And they sort of think that they have to be totally separate because, like, to talk about them in a comedic setting is to like make light of something that we really care about, or to sort of uh, not treat it with sort of brevity that they expect, which is, I think, understandable for middle schoolers to think. And it does. You're walking a fine line with political commentary and comedy, but it is. So I think one of the most like powerful forms of getting a message across, just because it can be so memorable. Um, I mean, we think about some of like the best, like even just Daily Show bits, or I think about like the type of commentary that John Oliver is doing on his HBO show. Like these are really important platforms, and it becomes much more accessible because it's being talked about in a way that really invites you in. Like comedy is really inviting, and it makes you want to like participate and laugh while also getting the message out. Um,
Comedy.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm a
Yeah,
trained
I'm so glad.
improviser, love comedy, graduated IO West in Hollywood.
I'm shaking
Let's go.
hand.
And on
Yes,
that vein,
iOS.
I want to. I've shared a lot of quips, but now I get to actually talk about my work. As the treasurer of the Beverly, Vermont Community Land Trust, I get to engage with shout out Hedgen, our director of cultural and art affairs. We have these amazing events where we invite the community to come and participate in making art, but more importantly, cultural art. The co-op is in Koreatown, Los Angeles, and we take a lot of pride in doing Korean art. One of the most recent workshops we did was like a Korean kite making workshop. They also made like paper in the traditional Korean way. And Hedgen will organize these. We have a community garden that we invite everybody in. And art can be a really powerful community building tool. Like not just as communication, but just as something where people can express themselves and come together and feel free to just like explore. And then on that same vein, like, you know, what better way to explore another culture than to just like take part in their art and participate in their culture. And I love the fact that I get a chance to see such an intersection of cultures in Koreatown, because we have to have like live translation during our meetings for our members in Korean, Spanish. We have to call in Bangladeshi translators on occasion. And just having such a diverse community in our land trusts area, just it exposes me to so much that I'm so blessed to just like share in these cultures and these arts, and it really connects you. Like you get a chance to participate in something that, you know, you may not otherwise have been exposed to. And that is a really good way to just like bond with people. Because at the core of this, like, I mean, we're organizing, but most importantly, like we need connection. Like we need connection with each other. We need connection with our community. And I'm a big proponent of using art as a way to build community.
That's so awesome. I love that. Yeah, that accessibility and language thing is really important. My dad used to be a sign language interpreter for Broadway shows. And like that is really, really, it's near and dear to my heart, the language accessibility. I'd love to hear, I know, Ray, you wanted to talk a bit about some art as well, if you'd like to
Yeah,
share.
actually perfect jumping off point. So one of my big things that I like to advocate for within the chronic illness community is the use of art therapies. So my degree is literally in creative arts and therapy. I studied art therapy, dance therapy, music therapy, and theater therapy. Theater was the one that I'm mostly focused on. But again, it just builds community so well because you don't need to use words all the time. I mean, with music, you can play something. With art, you're drawing. My senior thesis was actually on using theater therapy with victims of assault. In any aspect, because when you're watching that kind of it's to describe this, I have to describe a little bit of what theater therapy is. So hold on to your seatbelts, everybody. So theater therapy doesn't necessarily have to be just like script writing and plays and stuff like that. It could also just be like as simple as like, I'm going to reenact like something that made me angry, and you don't have to use words. You can just use your body and your motion, or you don't have to, because that's if you weren't feeling motion within anything. But I think what the coolest aspect of it is that you don't have to necessarily know the language of whoever's performing or making the art. You can just see visually what is happening, whether it is, dancing or that it gets a little different with music, obviously. But that being said, community can be built in any way, and I love that aspect of arts being a vehicle of that. So big proponent of that.
What a perfect, you explained what I was trying to explain even better than I did.
Yeah, I mean, like the
There's
way
no
I
way.
was
We have a
taught
degree in
theater
it, so
yeah, like originally it was like, if you have a group of people that are in anger management and you're reenacting, like one of the members was like, oh, I went to the beach and these annoying kids were kicking sand at me. And you're like, okay, well, you're going to be you. This person's going to be pretend that they're the child, and they're going to reenact this thing of like kicking the sand. And we're going to do this 3 different ways. You're going to do it where you're giggling and laughing, and we're going to see how you react that way. We're going to do it where you politely tell the child not to kick sand at you, and then you're going to do it with nothing. I'm not going to give you any direction. You're just going to redo the scene. So yeah, I could go on and on about theater therapy because I love it so much. But yeah.
Wow.
that's incredible.
I wanted to say something with that too. And by the way, music theater kid right here. So you were talking about, I was like, oh, I love it so much. But music is a universal language where, even when I'm doing reactions to music and things like that, I talk about how not everyone can hear pitch. Not everyone's going to know the language of someone that's talking. And so instead, it's that emotion that can come across that's going to be the thing that some people can feel. It can be visuals it tied to it, like a music video, or like you were saying with theater. Oh my goodness, I just love that so much, because you want to connect as an artist naturally, hopefully, with as many people who are going to get your message, and then maybe even beyond that. And to remember accessibility inside of that too. It's like, just having a vocal might not be enough, but pairing it with all of the different mediums that you can really, really help get more and more people to feel the feeling, and then that can translate to the human experience. So I love that so much, Ray.
I mean, Banksy didn't become Banksy just because he sat like in his room. You know what I mean? Like he went out and did it, and look at where he is now. So
Love
yeah, you can even
Banksy.
start with drawing something on a napkin in a restaurant, and then the server sees it, and then that, like there's so many little ways just to jump in.
Mhm.
Planting seeds. Planting
Mhm.
seeds. I love it.
Banksy, who will forever be anonymous because I refuse to read anything about it.
I feel like in Indigenous activism, art is like a big driving force. For example, during September, that is national kind of like, for missing and murdered Indigenous women and stuff. So a lot of the time we wear red dresses. A lot of people, you might see like artistic kind of statements being made online where they put the red hand over their mouth, to, show exactly kind of like, Indigenous women are kind of silenced about these issues that we faced. One of the main, like one of the big art piece that I really love seeing is called The Witness Blanket, and it's by Carrie Newman. And so basically, it's a large scale installation which is made from over 800 objects that were retrieved from residential schools and survivors. So it's basically just like a monumental kind of witness to the genocide of the Indigenous peoples in Canada, because, like I had mentioned before, like the last one didn't close until the late 90s, which is insane. It was only a few years before I was born. But yeah, definitely. It's nice to have art to kind of help humanize all of these statistics in a way so more people can understand. You can put a bar and graphs and all of these numbers in front of people, but it doesn't it's not going to mean anything to everyone, you know? So it's good to have art because some people are better like visual learners, and and like you guys were saying, it's like that feeling behind it. And with the witness blanket, that art installation that I was speaking about, like you can just feel like the heaviness behind it, like these young children who died in these residential schools, and like the items that they left behind that didn't make it home to their families. So it's definitely a big driving force in our culture. So
That's powerful.
Yeah, it's really powerful. Yeah. Yeah, and also I need to look this up. It sounds like it's not an actual blanket.
no,
It sounds
it's like
like
a yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
look it
it's
up
like
definitely. It's
I
awesome to
will.
see.
But the word blanket just reminds me of something I talked about towards the beginning of the stream, which is the AIDS quilt. Which if folks are not familiar, during the AIDS crisis and continuously to this day, this huge quilt was laid out. The original presentation of it was laid out in on the Washington Mall in DC, and folks who had lost loved ones to AIDS created um, segments of a quilt, and it was all laid out together. And so you can just visually, at the smallest glance, see the largest sort of swath of affected people, in a very clear way. And these quilts are beautiful. Like they are truly labors of love dedicated to folks that we lost during the AIDS crisis, and they are made as like testaments to who they were and who they what they stood for and what they loved. And I highly recommend looking some of them up because they're just so gorgeous. They're just so gorgeous.
That reminds me
Um,
of an art installation that I saw that will forever stay with me my entire life. Have you ever heard of The Electric Fan by John Boscovich? It was an art installation created after the AIDS crisis because his partner passed away during the crisis. And sadly, right after he passed away, his whole family came in and just cleared out his apartment. And the only thing left was an electric fan. And what his partner
oy.
did was that he encased it in a plexiglass box so that you could still plug it in and the air would blow and you could still feel the last like physical feeling left from his partner. And it
Oh,
just
that's
art
beautiful.
can be so powerful. And
Mhm.
if you think otherwise, you're very strong mistake.
Yeah. I, as someone who like studied like media theory and communication theory, art is the most effective way to convey any sort of message or to convey like our own experiences. It draws people in through the aesthetic spectacle of it, right? It's through the use of imagery and like a traditional like painting or art piece or street art, the vibrant colors or the use of imagery, or maybe it's like the melody that a song will use, or the prose or language that like a piece of writing will use. It draws people in with how beautiful or sometimes visceral uh, the the use of aesthetics is, and then it's impactful. It stays with us for a long time because of how memorable the medium makes it towards us. And that's why it's so useful as a tool to convey our own experiences as like a culture or an identity, because it's one of the best tools we have at our disposal, not only to educate others, but to make sure that they retain what we are trying to tell them. Um, and the best example I can think of recently was Haley Williams' most recent album. She included one of the songs. Oh shoot, what was it called? I had it pulled up because I was worried I was gonna forget it. um, True Believer. She True Believer. Which referenced a lot of things because it was a testament and a love letter towards her own home, but it was also a testament of the horrible things it done. Um, and there was a trend on TikTok afterwards of people who didn't know any of this about United States history and learned it through her song. Or people who were so surprised and glad that these things are being talked about in such a ex- easy to access like media format, right? Because so many people were learning about it through song. Because people will talk about song. Oh, have you heard it? Oh, this is so beautiful. I love this album. Oh, I really like this artist. So let me click on their new release. And it's just so impactful. It's such an impactful medium. Like it, we're already gonna get there in a little bit, but just people will remember the information in like a song or like art piece way longer than they'll remember a pamphlet.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to just note our time, that we have just about an hour left. So do folks have other things that they want to talk about in terms of art? I feel like we could talk about like just this for like another 6 hours.
I put it on the document because I wanted to wait, but just this whole conversation reminds me of the quote by Maya Angelou, and I'm just gonna roughly give it. It's like, you'll forget what people say, but you won't forget how they make you feel.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do we want to talk about balance, self-care, how to not
So important.
go absolutely
Yes.
bananas in this
Yeah.
current day and age?
Definitely.
So
Absolutely.
I think all of us have, we clearly all have like causes that we care about and causes that we sort of like to focus in on, which I think is really important, just to sort of open up this conversation about like how to not feel super burnt out, like, because I feel like we clearly like have this well-rounded sort of understanding of so many different issues, but there are only 24 hours in a day. And so it's really important that like we uplift each other's voices when we are talking about different experiences that somebody else might have expertise on, or we don't want to like, talk over folks that are coming from the backgrounds that need attention. And so I feel like this is a great sort of wrap up sort of conversation to have about how we can best pace ourselves. And I'd love to go over to Ray first, because I'd love to hear you talk about this and sort of the intersection of chronic illness, because I know that there is like a lot of sort of overlapping discussion within the disability community around this.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is completely different. We all know that, right? I mean, every person that has the same diagnosis is not going to be the same. So for what works for me doesn't work for everybody. That's why I made the Support Something Saturday in the way I made it, was because I knew that if I wanted to cancel one day, I didn't want that to impact the things I was trying to talk about. So that's why I expand it over a month and have that one day that I know that, like, for lack of better wording, I have to show up. But there's other ways to show up. Like if I'm offline, I'm doing something like posting resources. I mean, I think the simplest thing that I've ever done is on my Instagram, I have a little like resources. Like that's where if I'm going to post something and it's going to be important to a community, it's going in that little file on Instagram. I think one of the biggest things that this is just for everybody, like listening to yourself. You are always going to have cues that are going to tell you, like, either A, you're tired, B, you're hungry, or C, you're just not fulfilling one of the natural human needs. So, like, I think the more important part is to be here to be able to speak on it than it is to put everything and your whole being into it and then burn out and destroy yourself to not be able to do more work. So I think that's one of the biggest messages, is that if you're not listening to yourself, you can't show up for others. So show up for yourself first, have that water like ready for you for what you're going to do, whether you're making a painting for your activism, whether you're streaming, whatever it is, you're going to have your water, you're going to have a heating pad if that's what you need. You're going to have a safe, comfy space to do it in. Because if not, then it's just kind of a little silly to put yourself out there and make yourself uncomfortable, because the people that you're trying to help are not going to be upset if you're like me, like not doing the thing because you're not at your best for the day. So I think that's the most important thing, is just be there for yourself to be there for others.
Absolutely. It's so important. Everyone drink
Yeah,
some
for
water.
Yeah.
You,
As
there's
I'm
this
sitting here drinking a Diet Coke, like don't do as I say. My whole fridge behind me is full of Diet Coke and Diet
That's
Dr.
hilarious.
Pepper, but have your water near you.
That reminds me. There's
Everyone
this
drink some water.
analogy we hear amongst organizers here in LA that they're always like the flight attendant tells you when the oxygen mask drops down, you
Mhm.
put yours on first. And we always we
Yeah.
keep reminding people of that. If you're not in a position to
Yeah.
help people, you can't help people.
Yeah, for sure. It's so important.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love all of that. I love everything you just said. It's so you're so like succinct about it. I love it. It's so like clear and true. It's so
I
true.
say that from a place of like my first charity stream I ever did. I did everything in the same month. So like I was burnt out by the end of it and I was like, what am I doing? And then I was like so mad at myself and I was like, wait a minute. Like we stop, pause. What am I actually contributing? You know? So that's the
Amazing.
lens I like to look at it.
I'm glad you realized
Yeah.
that.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't want to move on from this question so quickly if other folks have input on how we can pace ourselves.
I definitely do. Okay. Because I was really bad about this. I was really bad about not doing. I'm still bad. I'm learning. um, because there's when you go into the news, there's this whole like desensitization that happens to you because you're constantly a part of the news feed, right? And you don't learn to turn that off. And years in, and I feel horrible all the time. I feel horrible, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Like, oh, I start taking more vitamin D supplements, spending more time in the sun. Maybe that's it. Oh, a bit better about water, exercise. And then I realized it's because I don't ever turn myself off. I
Mhm.
I'm always like keeping myself informed, and I'm always like over analyzing like anytime I'm like stepping out of my door, like everything. And I'm never just like letting myself like be, right? And I'm still learning because I'm still really bad about it. I'm literally like between my breaks at work, like I'm at work, I take a break, I'm checking my feeds because I'm like, oh well, I'm missing news, and it's something you have to constantly unlearn because it's just like honestly they prepare you for when it happens, like at least for me in journalism school, but they don't teach you how to undo it. They just kind of teach you that's going to happen. Um, and like one of the things I had to start doing was listening to myself to my body, of course, but also preempting time for yourself. At one point, like this is a big one. This is just like kind of the first step. I feel like the most important one is when you're like hanging out with people, like just being present. Like I know we're all attached to our phones, um, but like I started setting a rule that unless like I don't know checking my text, making sure there's like not like an emergency text or like making sure I'm checking the time if I have a schedule. I'm not on my phone. Like if I'm at a coffee shop with my friends, I'm there, and I like check the clock, and that's like it. And it's just
Mhm.
it's important to set that time ahead of yourself. Or another one is like sometimes I'll play a video game by myself, and I'm like, okay, I'm putting my phone on the other side of the room. I'm just playing this video game. This is my afternoon. Um, this is my time, and just being able to carve that time out in your schedule. That's one of the reasons why honestly, like as many problems as it created, it also solved it. I've been reading so many trashy fiction novellas recently, and that time has become my time to like not be political, even though since they're all like gay, they still end up being political. At the very least, I'm not like super plugged in during them. So I think just plan it into your day, plan it into your schedule. When you decide, like don't let it build up. Like you have to actively remember, oh, I need to like figure out what time this week I'm gonna like be a human, or not be a human as needs may be. Um, oh, the amount of
Everyone go
times I've
touch
heard that
grass.
one.
Um,
Uh, that
Sorry, go
reminds
ahead.
me, real quick. Do you remember the quote from Tamara Burke, or I'm sorry, Tarana Burke? Was her name? It was during the Me Too movement. She said, "This is a movement, not a moment," and that
Yeah,
always stuck
yeah.
with me.
Mhm.
It's not fleeting. It doesn't end. It keeps going, and you need to pace yourself. It's like a marathon. You're not sprinting through it, right? You gotta pace yourself. You gotta like prepare your like rest breaks, or else you're gonna be so far from the finish line, and you're just gonna on the pavement.
Well said.
mhm. Just to kind of like piggyback off that a little bit is I know that my For You page on TikTok and like anything that's kind of shown to me has a lot to do with like the advocacy kind of stuff that I'm interested in. And I find that at the end of the day, when you just want to like lay there, scroll on TikTok or whatever, it's really hard not to doom scroll. It's extremely hard not to get like way too into that mindset. And I like so definitely scheduling time away from your phone, turning it off, like knowing when to like switch apps because that contributes to burnout a lot. That I find anyways is there's already so many like bad things going on in the world and then you keep hearing more and more about it and it really does weigh down on somebody like emotionally and mentally. And it's just you definitely just need to schedule that time away because like Ray had said like you can't help anybody if you're not helping yourself because you can't break yourself down to build other people up. That's just not the way it works. So definitely with the whole phone thing, like put it away, stop doom scrolling, focus on yourself, self-care.
Definitely. Just I want to really quick jump on that and say that like the best organizers are like organizing during the day and going to the club at night. Like,
Yeah.
you
You
know what I
gotta
mean?
burn
Like
that steam.
they are
Yeah.
like
You
deep
got
in
it.
Yep.
the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like deep in the work all the like during the
Mhm.
day, and then at night they're going and partying at the Charlie XCX rave. Like,
Yeah.
like it's really important to like get into those really joyful spaces as well,
Raving is great for
because
that.
like
Yeah,
it's
that's balance.
it really is.
Mhm.
Like the work is just the hard work, the devastating work is just as important as the joyful community building that you're doing. Whether it's like I say at the club, but it could also be just like a movie night with your friends, or
Sure.
just like a movie night in your Discord, things like that. Like it can take a lot of different forms, but it's really important to like maintain that sense of joy as well. So it can be, your trashy novellas. Ari, I think you wanted to
Absolutely.
say something.
Thank you. So there's a couple of things. I love all of the things that y'all are saying. I was like, yes, I wanted to mention that. Yeah, we are right in alignment with each other on so many of those, like the face mask, put on yours first. Like there's so many important things there. I also wanted to add something that I found out about called compassion fatigue, which I never thought could exist. I thought like, oh, caring is something that you can just do infinitely. Like there should be no end to it if you really like care about people. And no, 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 no. I think it was Mother Teresa who, when she was out in the field, she had a mandatory break period for her nurses for like it was something like every 3 years on the field, you had to take a mandatory 1 or 2 years off. Like you had to step away, or else you could burn out and, hopefully, I mean, it may not recover. Like there is a way to completely have something to extinguish your fire. And so she was very adamant about that. And when I learned about that, I said, oh my goodness, like I just kept going. I thought I could just keep caring. And so even before you get to the point where you're feeling that feeling of burning out, you should already try to incorporate self-care, self-love, and realizing, like we were saying, if you aren't taking care of yourself, there's a limit to how much you're going to be able to do for other people. And then my other thing is, even culturally, it's just so important to incorporate times of laughter, like we were also saying, into really hard times, because like laughter is the best medicine. I don't know who said that first, but sometimes we can be somewhat sad because of the things happening around us. I also was obsessed with the news at times in my life. I was a baby watching the news with my grandmother growing up. So I thought, oh, I can consume all of these things. And she was an activist too. But now we live in a different world than my grandmother did. Now we have such instant access 24/7 from our beds, 24/7 news. Like, we did not have this much information. And so it's figuring out our balance of growth and learning more, which is always important. But for a time of growth, there's a time of rest. There's a time of fun, even when you feel like you cannot have fun with a certain thing that's happening. It's like comedians, going back to that, they are some of the most wild minds, that they can take sometimes the saddest of circumstances and things and still find a way for us to laugh in a moment. And it's just a really important practice we have to try to have, is how to be serious and how to be lighthearted in order to have a good set of things that we're putting our bodies through. We are in this new world. It's always new. And now we have AI, which is also doing its own other thing inside of our minds and inside of our bodies. And so, getting with people, remembering the human part of what we are, the human connection, and we can help heal each other while we are also trying to do things in the world at the same time.
I love it. I love it. You guys are so smart. What the heck?
Y'all
It's
are,
amazing.
I love how many different places we're coming from too, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm just really loving the different perspectives. Like, y'all are all so inspiring. I really appreciate this time.
Extremely.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Me
deep
too.
diving all of you after I leave here.
Don't look too close.
Hiding
I
before I get there.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say the different perspective, because I do want to also talk about there's a prompt on here about where did it go? I just lost it. Supporting each other as creators, because one thing that we do all have in common is that we're all streamers, and we're all members of the Women's Guild, and we're all involved in the content space. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about how I have my thoughts about how we support each other as creators to prevent things like compassion fatigue or burnout. Or even if it's like anecdotal, I'd love to hear some stories about like how you have helped another streamer, how another streamer has helped you. Yeah, go for it.
Real quick, this one's to you, chat. It is free to share the stream. It is free when you see a post to hit that like button. It's free to tell your friends. None of that costs you anything. It helps support things. It helps us know that we're supported. That's like, honestly, like so helpful, because like you're out here like trying to put a message out there, and just having people acknowledge that effort.
Something
Yeah, and I want to say something. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Something I often do, because I'm
Yeah.
like a listener and a sharer a lot. I guarantee it's going to happen with what we've said here today. There'll just be a discussion like that happens on stream, and I'll start talking, and I'm going to eventually like quote one of you or say something that will happen that was said, like paraphrased from one of you. And it's happened before, happens a lot. While I'll just start like talking about an important topic, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, my friend said something about this, and I was really thinking about it." Um, and I when I do that, I always like end up shouting them out, and like, because like there's the Twitch command for shouting out now. And I think it's a really important like practice, is to not just like share what others have shared with you, but also like crediting them where it's due. Because I didn't used to do that. I would just like be like, "Oh, I've heard something about this," and then just share it without thinking, "Oh, well, hold on, someone shared that with me initially, and someone shared that with them," and it's like it's a legacy of sharing information. And it's, yeah. So I think that's like another way that I just kind of instinctively end up like supporting other creators, is just inadvertently like quoting or paraphrasing them, and then like saying, "Oh, if you like that kind of information, why don't you go check them out while you're here? Obviously, don't like click off yet, but give them a follow."
Ari, did you want to go next?
No, actually, I'm like, no, that's great. No, it's just, this is great.
Yeah. I mean, that all goes back into like when we were talking about like digital activism. Like, that is a way that you can get involved. Literally, just liking and sharing, like that's literally like you're getting involved just by doing that. Um, Another way that you can just be there for fellow content creators and how I've been is just leaving that door open for communication, like being that shoulder for someone to lean on, because it makes all the difference, especially nowadays where, like, people struggle a lot with mental health. They're a lot more open with it nowadays than we were like 10 years ago even. So it's good to just, like, be that person, be that support person who's just willing to be a listening ear. Like, you don't have to have the right thing to say, but it means all that much. Like, I know it means so much to me when my friends take the time out of their day to listen to me and my gripes and, what's stressing me out. So definitely, like, that's all you can, that's one thing you can do.
Allowing people to
Definitely.
just feel heard is so important.
Exactly. It makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. Like, you don't need to donate money monetarily and stuff to help out, like the organizations that they're, doing, but just being there. Just be there. Just be a good friend. Good friends are ones that are just there for you no matter what. And that's like what I've tried to do, and others have tried to do for me. So that's the only word of advice I really have for, helping out.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I want to say is that, I mean, we wouldn't be here having this conversation if it wasn't for the guild. And so I think, like, I mean, for me personally, like, I'm part of the Women's Guild and also the Pride Guild, but we also mentioned the Indigenous Alliance. There's also the Black Guild and the Latin Guild as well. Like, these spaces are so incredible for creators that sort of exist on the margins of, especially on a platform like Twitch, where, like, I think it's like something like 2% of the top 100 streamers are women. So having that really, like I said earlier, safe and protected space is something that I do not take for granted at all. Like, I think it is so incredible to have that environment. And for those that don't know, if anybody wants to do !TWG in the chat, applications for the Unity Guilds are always open and rolling. So it might take a little bit for you to get in there, but if you are a creator that falls under the banner of the Unity Guilds, just make sure that you've filled out your streamer survey and then head to that link tree, and please, please join us because it's so amazing. And I'd love to read out the Women's Guild purpose statement, because I think it really sums up, like, a lot of the values that the guild has, which it took me a minute to find it. Dice server is big. So there's the overall Unity Guild mission, which is across all 4 guilds, is that we believe our community should make a space where all can share their authentic voice and experiences with peers within a safe space where privacy is respected, concerns are acknowledged, and differences are celebrated. And then the Women's Guild purpose statement says that the Twitch Women's Guild provides a safe, private space for marginalized genders across Twitch to build a community through collaboration, experiences, and shared knowledge. The Guild's role is to amplify the voices of creators of marginalized genders, increase their visibility, and provide more opportunities and resources for their personal and professional growth. And those statements, like, I hear them echoed in larger offline spaces as well, like that sort of putting marginalized voices at the forefront is the goal. And I think, like, a big part of that I sort of latch onto is the sharing of resources, because I think a lot of times people feel like they can't get involved, or they don't know certain things, or they don't have a space where they can ask and feel okay asking, because some of the things we talked about earlier, whether it be imposter syndrome or feeling like unequipped to handle these kinds of conversations, or just what I see with a lot of women is, like, the constant need to make yourself smaller and always be saying sorry for things that you don't need to apologize for. And so the guild spaces in particular have created this really protective space where those things don't have to exist. Like there's no fear there because like you know that you're entering a protected space. And so, yeah, I see a lot of like activist rhetoric being pushed forward in the guilds as well, and sort of being the driving force behind that program, that I really value and try and uphold.
And shout out Twitch for making those spaces, because sometimes just making the space like that ties in with my work with the land trust. Like we realize that like one of the cornerstones of movement building right now is that most people are paying like 50% of their income for their rent, and you're honestly not supposed to be paying more than like 20. Like that is what our parents and grandparents were paying as a ratio to their income. Now everyone's
less.
like, yeah, or less. In other countries they're paying like single digit percentages, but here in the US we're paying like 50%, some people even more. And the land trust recognizes that, and we exist to, one, take housing out of the speculative market so that it doesn't, the rent isn't beholden to somebody's profit, and two, to make space for people that otherwise wouldn't have somewhere to live in communities they grew up in, or you know, activists and movement leaders that otherwise would have to be staying to the grind instead of being able to pay attention to what's going on. And I really think a lot of what we're working on right now stems from people just not having time to catch their breath, time to like look into what's going on and really review how they can make a change and how they can move forward and put their effort forward in a way that's impactful. So yeah, a lot of what we're talking about overlaps, but it all stems back to just like we're being crushed by these giant companies, and we really got to figure out a way to like come together.
No.
Surprise!
Exactly, Angie. Exactly, Angie. Stolen land.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to say something on that too. Like we mentioned class as a big part of it. We've mentioned how there's such a shared struggle for a lot of people. And I think you're really onto something, because it is because of how mobilized we were during like the civil rights movement between all groups, really. And that's what they were terrified of. It was a similar thing that happened earlier in history, really, really far back, when all poor people started to come together and say, wait, this doesn't work. And then they're like, divide and conquer. So now it's a new set of circumstances where we can't have the time we used to have. It used to be you didn't have to work 2, 3 jobs to make sure that you have a quality of life that you feel is average, you know, and now we have jobs that are paying so below what they should be paying. We don't have livable wages. And so we're now in a space of we don't have the time to sit and think about what's happening. But we did during the pandemic, for instance. Like that was something that changed so much. And I think we had a lot of progress. A lot of people were awakened to different things. They were able to learn more online. And then they said, oh no, now we have to erase any progress that they had during that time. We're going to make it that much harder for them to do anything and to think and to legitimately change our circumstances. And so we just have to remember the algorithms, the bots are working against us. It's trying to have us think that whatever it is we are experiencing is the only reality and nothing else matters. Be empowered by the, you know, anger inside of you, especially a little political, that we've put such a problematic person as the lead role model of America. And that now people are feeling emboldened to say, oh, well, I'm just going to tell you how I feel. And I'm like, wait, that's not quite civilization. Just to have the freedom to say whatever. You know, we got to
Yes.
consider how someone's going to feel about it. Yeah, I might not say every word that comes to the top of my mind, but are we making better places for us to thrive together? And then when we start to thrive together, we then realize, wait, we have the ability, we have power, we have authority when we work together, when we come together, when we talk to each other. You know, we are in such different places that we are activists in, but we share the goal of humanity with each other.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, how can we come together to have this organized body to then get things to happen that we know needs to happen? So yeah, we're doing the things. So and someone in my chat was saying, you know, we are planting seeds, Fat Keys. We're planting seeds. We are doing such important work, and I hope that you all feel, you know, inspired that what we're doing is so important, and I hope this validates that in so many ways. So thank y'all. I said it like we're ending it. No, we're still going. We're still
We're still going. I
We're
have
still
a
in
big
this.
thing that I want to bounce
Joe,
off of
please,
that.
Joe.
But I want to. I want. If anybody else has something to add on before I, as College Bound in the chat says, talk my shit.
I guess
Yes.
I mean, just adding in, like, is it Smokey the Bear that says leave everything better than you found it? You know, like that goes
Ooh.
into not just national parks, but like just the universe in general. Like, if there's something that you're passionate about, like go for it, you know, like leave the place better,
Right.
you know, than you're entering it, you know?
So true.
And that, like, and all these topics all touch on each other, you know, like I could talk about disabilities in housing, I could talk about disability in different cultures, and, you know, like it's just, there's so many avenues, it's not just one necessarily.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Absolutely. Let's not trash Mars.
Yeah.
I know that's the plan.
Oh, please, can we not?
Let's
Please,
not do
please.
that.
It can't
Let's
be the
not move
plan.
to another planet until we learn to take care of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I wanted to jump off of that sort of messaging because, like, as you were talking about sort of this administration and people in power in the U.S. in particular, but I think sort of this global movement that I've seen that really like it hit me hard because like that sort of dividing aspect of like that these people in power want us to stay divided really hits home for me when we think about the Zionist project and how like a big sort of anchoring statement for a lot of anti-Zionist Jewish people right now is not in our name, because the atrocities that have been happening for decades and decades and decades, but particularly in the last couple of years, as we've seen it like broadcast straight to our phones, is that like the genocide in Gaza has been like perpetrated to protect Jewish people, which if I think about it too long, my brain will explode. Like it just makes me so angry. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I waited to talk about this until we were off the front page because just to be safe. But like
Fair.
it is like such a clear source of division in my mind from both ends. A lot of people don't realize that some of the most prominent Zionist figures in the US are evangelical Christians.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like to be totally honest, like their sort of rhetoric is that Zionism is important and the state of Israel is important because when the apocalypse comes, we want all the Jews there and not here, which is, I'm sorry, crazy. Like, that's ridiculous and insane. And it sort of has become this warped project that encompasses all Jewish voices to justify a genocide. Like it's really insane to me. So like when we're talking about like we can't be divided, like there is a lot of really, really dangerous rhetoric out there disguising itself as like protecting anti-Semitism when it does not, and it is truly just a vessel of the Zionist project. If folks want more resources on that, feel free to hit me up. I don't want to like take up too much of our time because we do only have about half an hour left of our slot. But I would be remiss if I didn't speak my piece on
Thank
that.
you. I mean, I've got my ceasefire sign right up there, right on top of my,
Oh,
my
yes.
name back there. But
Yeah.
I mean, just to touch on that, I mean, you're exactly right. Like everyone's got different goals and different like movements and things like that, but like we're really all not so different. We're all human beings having a human experience, and whatever that means
Absolutely.
for us.
We have more in common than we have otherwise, and
Absolutely.
we lose so many of our chains the moment we realize that, because we stop being held back
Absolutely.
massively once we realize, oh, like we have so much in common. We aren't like different. The walls that divide us aren't real. They've been put there to limit us. I mean, literally,
And the
like,
borders,
yeah. Oh God.
dare I say.
Absolutely.
I I spent a whole
Economies.
month. I spent a whole month studying the border, the history of the border. Yeah, it's all fake. Nothing's real. We're you have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't care how different your neighbors seem. They're just like you, chat.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll add on to this too. Oh, go ahead. Oh,
No, you first.
and so also the conflict is very important to me as well. Like I had actually didn't realize I had owned a Palestinian scarf. Didn't know that it was Palestinian because I bought it in like high school. So this is a very long time ago.
The kufia.
But ended up my best friend in college was also a Palestinian refugee. And I learned so much from her family. And speaking of arts and activism, I wrote a song about Palestine. I'm like about to age myself nearly 20 years ago at this point. And it was just so interesting to me to learn also as a Christian, by the way, how there is a certain idea that we are supposed to honor a chosen people in this area, but a broken clock is right twice a day. Tucker Carlson, the advocacy he's been doing
It's
lately,
weird.
not to promote this guy, right? I'm like, not a promotion in no sense of the word, but at least someone is saying like, hey, why do they have a right to that land? Like, what is it that how did you come to this conclusion? And my thing is, Semitism or a Semite, Palestinians are also Semitic people. So there's technically anti-Semitic Semites that are Jewish, when it's just kind of like, wait, what is going on here? And even the organization I told you about that I learned activism and I teach activism through NCCJ is the National Conference of Community and Justice. Its original name was the National Conference for Christians and Jews.
Oh.
Okay. It was this original thing because there was a war. There used to be war between Christians and Jews back in like the 60s. And then they were like, how do we figure out a way to get across our differences? And at the end of the day, we're all the same. Like we are 1% different from each other, every human being on earth. Even the concept of race, I learned it at that same camp, that race doesn't exist in humans. This is all social constructs that we've created in order to separate people, because we are practically the same. We just have different genetic ways of expression that comes out of us because of the wild thing that is genetics. And so we're all similar. We are all having a thing, and they've created these social constructs to separate us. We have to dig a little bit deeper, even in our religious beliefs, or because I don't call myself religious. I'm very spiritual, and I like to redeconstruct a lot of the things that you just grow up thinking that you believe, and instead it's, let me read the stories, let me read the book. And the book doesn't actually say most of the things that people cherry pick from it to then create the basis for wars and to speed up like second comings and things like that. No, you can't artificially manufacture this stuff. And so it is just us realizing, hey, let us all take a step back, reconsider, read some literature. That's from a rap lyric. I don't know if anybody that's it's what's his name? Andre 3000 from one of his songs.
Of course.
But it is just very it's just important for us to realize we are so much more the same, to piggyback off of what you all were saying as well. And we are in the human experience, like you were saying as well, Bombshell, and just figuring out how to talk to each other and realizing, hey, we want to love. We want to love our families. We want to love our community, and the world is a community. So how can we extend it beyond our own borders as well?
This reminds me of a really fun fact, and everyone can look this up. Genetics has proven we are all 50th cousins or less.
Or less.
Look it up.
Wow. We all came from one
Amazing.
place, so or one
Yeah.
woman. So
Exactly.
yeah.
You're
Well, we have
so
about
ordinary.
yeah, for real.
Hey cousins.
Hey,
cousins!
cousins.
Hey.
I'm only entering
I
chats
love
with
it.
"Hi cousin" from now on. Like, "Hey cuz," "Hi
Yes.
cousin," just
That's
from now
so
on.
funny.
I love it. Yes, Ray.
Incredible.
It's very
Love it.
Italian Chicago.
That's so funny.
I do want to be mindful of time and obviously give folks the stage if anyone has any more to say. But I do also, I've been posting it in chat a little bit, but I want to say aloud also, we do want to make sure we have time for some chat Q&A. So chat, if you have any questions for any of the panelists, feel free to type them out, put them in the chat. Also, while folks were talking, we didn't want to interrupt each other, but we did get a couple more raids. So hi Raiders, welcome in.
Yes. Hi,
We're
Raiders.
so happy to have ya.
Thank you for the
Um,
raids.
We
Yes,
saw
it's-
you, I promise.
we see. We're just also, focused.
Yeah.
We'll be
Locked
respectful of our
in,
friends.
Locked in.
But yes, if folks have any questions about anything we've talked about, anything we haven't talked about, maybe we can answer. But this has been so amazing. This has been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, if we don't have any questions right on the nose or right out of the gate, if folks really want to help change things, I really encourage you to look up your local land trust. If you have the ability and resources, sign up, become a dues paying member. As I mentioned, a lot of that overlaps with the activism of Shay. And land back is conservation. They're not different. That's the same movement. So like if you want to try to like undo global warming, land back is the best way to do that.
Exactly. Like you said, they do overlap quite a bit. And like definitely like all we're really advocating for is just giving indigenous peoples like the right to decide what happens on our own land. And so the work that you're doing, Bombshell, like it's amazing. So thank you for being an ally.
You're welcome. You're gonna make me cry.
You're doing great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to read this out because I think it is. I also think this. Fat Key says, I just want to say that y'all rock. The light y'all possesses is bright. I can't read. Thank y'all for standing bold. And I agree.
Aw,
Y'all are
Fat
so
Key.
bright.
No, be the change you want to see in the world. We've been saying it all day. Like, the first steps to change is just talking about it. That's always the first step. So I feel like what we're doing here is an amazing thing. And I'm so happy that I've been able to be a part of it and learn more about the causes that you guys are advocating for, because I didn't know like too much, So thank you so much for educating me. Like this is so awesome. And I'm so glad that this has been a thing and really impressive considering we had less than a week to get this planned.
Chat, we put this together in a week.
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that. We've been working on this for ages.
I
Months,
think we
actually.
deserve
Sorry, I
credit for
misspoke.
that. Well, organizers.
Funny. And go to
Organizers
your
going to
HOA
organize.
meetings, by the way.
I'm sorry, I spoke over you. What did you say?
Organize, going to organize. Yes. Oh no, I was doing a serious funny, but go to your HOA meetings if you have one of those. So important.
Get in spaces,
Okay.
disrupt things that would
Yes.
not go the right way otherwise. Yes.
Cause good trouble.
Absolutely.
Cause good trouble.
Cause the
Yes, good
trouble.
trouble.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I love it.
I have a question for everybody. What's next for you all? Or is there something this year, whether it's in content or activism or advocacy or any of those things? Like, what do you see or hope for 2026?
Well, our board is
Ooh.
busy. We are already reviewing projects to collaborate with, well, possibly collaborate with service providers, but other organizations, acquire more properties. We have one cooperative called Seniors for Housing that is in the final steps of formalization, where we will then give them ownership of their building. The only thing the land trust wants to retain ownership is the land, and we give them an extremely good lease terms. And that's it. We acquire land to take it out of the speculative housing market, and we will continue to do that.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful.
I love it. For me in the short term, I'll be at PAX East next week if you want to say hi.
Yay.
I don't know if anybody else will be there. I think Ray, you're going, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll have to link up.
I need to
Yeah.
go there at some
Yeah,
point.
I'll
I
be
haven't
there
hit
next
that one
week.
yet.
That's the short term. For the rest of the year, I mean, I'm definitely my activism has and I guess unfortunately, but fortunately also taken up a lot of my time through my nonprofit work. So we're in the throes of organizing our big fancy gala right now,
Ooh.
but just continuing to publish the stories of kids in New York City across all 5 boroughs, across different classrooms in both English and Spanish, working with local government to get us more grant money, and also speaking of local government, paying attention to the things that our new mayor is doing. So
We
yeah,
love you,
that's
Zora.
what I'm focused on. That's my mayor, literally.
Ooh, oh, I didn't know. I love that.
Giving us all hope.
Oh, that's right, New York. Oh my gosh, it's all
Yep.
coming together.
Don't rub it in. Slightly
Damn, I'm
jealous over
Donnie.
here. It's fine.
It's good. I think the ball is rolling though. His campaign like really has sparked like a whole movement of progressives out there running for office, especially local office,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So vote in your local elections.
Do it.
Yes, that's the best way you can advocate for what you believe in is vote. Vote, vote, vote.
Vote, especially local. Vote everything, but especially local. Everything starts from the ground up.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Choosing not to.
I on that really. Oh,
I was going to say,
Go ahead.
choosing
No,
not
please.
to engage in politics allows politics to engage in you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not
Yes.
taking a stance on a
Yes.
political is taking a stance. Like, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
you're making your stance seen by not contributing. You can't
We
complain if you don't
can't
vote.
afford to be centrist. We can't afford to be
Exactly.
Yep.
centrist in this
Yeah.
day and age.
Oh,
No, not today, unfortunately.
There's a
Nope.
famous quote by Desmond Tutu that says, "If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality."
wow.
I love
That's
that.
deep. I've never
That's
heard that one
key.
before.
Right.
Highly
Absolutely.
recommend reading
And
more
I was
Desmond
gonna
Tutu. Mm.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Amazing. I was going to say about the DSA, I'd actually just gotten recently kind of introduced to that world, also with Zoran Mandani as well. My secretary for the board, she's very much, oh, she would have loved to. Now I need to let her know about my channel eventually. But she was letting me know about all of the things. She took me to a Marxist party. I can't. Oh, it's a cute little
Really?
catchy name that
A
they have.
DSA.
Yeah, it's like drinks and Marxism or something. And it was for a
I wish LA
DSA
would get
event
on
for
that
the
tip.
first ever elected DSA candidate in Atlanta. She just won, and I was at her like event, and I said, "Oh," and I told her, I said, "Oh no, what if I go to this event, and this is for y'all too?" It was like, "What if I go to this event? I don't know what Marxism fully is," and I was just like, "Are they going to shun me? Will I be?" As I'm such a Democrat, but it's just over time and just, understanding how bad Republicanism modern day has been, that's made me such a staunchly Democrat person. But DSA just hasn't gotten enough publicity yet for people to fully know what it is or the other alternative options are. But I was telling people there the party, and they were like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And so for other people, like we were mentioning before, it's okay to going into spaces that you don't know anything about it. Just go if it seems interesting. Ask questions, let people know where you're coming from. And usually they're going to be very open to a person who's open to hearing about it. So go to these local events
Yes.
and, just learn. And it could inform you, even if you don't become, DSA or Marxist in the process. At least something can inform you to then maybe there's a better candidate on the ballot than what you thought of before that is going to be better than maybe someone else in your party. So just open mindedness is also a very important starting point to just maybe what I've learned or what my parents did wasn't the way, because we're not 1,000 years in the future. I don't know what this means that I'm saying, but just
I
open
get it. I
your
get it.
mind. Thank you.
And
Okay.
on that tip,
Open
DSA
your
is
mind.
amazing, but
Yeah.
also there's PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. There's Peace
Oh,
and Freedom Party. There's the Green Party. There are alternatives to,
Working
yeah,
families.
the Working Family. There are alternatives to the Republican lights, aka the Democrats. I just want to encourage people to
hilarious.
just explore other things.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't know about, you said PSL?
PSL, Party for Socialism and
Oh,
Liberation.
awesome. Awesome. Got to look into them. Got to learn more. Wonderful.
Big fan. We've got a couple of really big races. Ada Churi is going for city attorney with the help of PSL and the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And Lalo Vargas, I believe, is running for one of our city council seats, also supported by that party. And if you're ever at any of the marches in downtown Los Angeles, you will hear from those candidates. Also, feel free to dig through my clips because I've got plenty from them on there if you want to pop in there.
By the way, I used to live on Main Street in downtown LA.
Right in
And
the thick
so
of it.
all of the thickest of it, everything came by my front door practically.
I've been by your front door many
Yes,
times.
yes, yes. Yes, yes, many times. Absolutely. And I saw
Shai, what do you
something
have
in the
coming
chat,
up?
by the way.
Ooh,
Oh,
Oh, sorry. What is
let's hear from Shai
WFP?
first.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's the Working Families Party.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
like, I can't help but now that we're talking about this, point out every other country's got 10 plus political parties, and we don't. And things are bad here. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, we have like multiple in Canada, but I feel like people just don't want to take the risk of voting for another party. It's always liberal versus conservative because, like, people are just too scared to vote for anything else. So it just ends up being just those two.
Ranked choice voting is so important.
That's
Mm,
Yep,
mm,
that's what our
Yeah.
old prime minister was supposed to implement and then never did. So
No,
If
I'm
we could move
I'm so
past
with
this
my
like duality or the parity voting system, we could actually maybe make some progress. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Mordred?
Mhm.
I was just saying I'm so upset. My state recently had the option to have ranked voting, and it like lost because it went to a vote during general election, and it lost by like 2%.
Try it
It's
again.
not showing
And
the count. It's
You got to try it again if
off.
you're that
Yeah.
close.
and I'm really, we gotta push for it to come back, and next time we're gonna like make everyone learn about it first.
That just sounds like you got to try again. That's all it sounds like.
Yeah.
It'll come back around, I believe. I think I'm so sorry. I'm not remembering who spoke about what they've got coming up on the docket for the year.
Yeah, does anybody else have some work coming up or events?
I know that Ray's going to PAX East. What else have you got going on?
Well, of course, I feel a little bit cringe saying this, but my husband and I are working on a podcast because representation
Yay.
matters. So it's gonna.
Congratulations.
So we already have. Thank you. We have an Instagram and stuff like that. Just I told the panelists earlier. I just left my full-time job last Friday. It was in education, so it was a little. I was working in alternative programming, so it was a little too stressful for my little chronic illness baddie body. But we're working on, it's called Type 1 and Chat. So it's going to be a podcast about living with type 1 diabetes and gaming and representation within the media of about diabetes and other chronic illnesses, because I'm sure I will get on the arthritis train and lupus train and all that. But that's like the immediate, we're working on that. And just getting back to it, I took a little time off from streaming because I got married in October. That took a lot of time. And then I started, thank you. So yeah, so I took a little bit of time off, but now it's full steam ahead, getting back into the game and just having fun.
That's so cool.
Lovely name for your podcast. That's so cool.
Such a
I
good
was like, oh my goodness, amazing. Yes.
It came up. I'll put the emo in chat, but Breakthrough has, if I can find it quickly, it's like a type 1 where you're like typing the one button, and then I was like, wait a minute, type 1 in chat, that could work, and then it just brainchild off of that.
Do you have a link that people could follow it?
We just have a Blue Sky and an Instagram, but let me grab
When's
those.
Next
I don't
time
know
you're
if
gonna get a promo then. Anybody else got something cooking?
So me being with like the Indigenous Alliance, we have like a lot of stuff coming up this year. Every year in November, we do a raid train for Native American Heritage Month in the US. But I noticed that we didn't have anything going during the month of June, which is National Indigenous History Month in Canada.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I feel like we should give some love to our Canadian Indigenous folks because again, we face the same, issues that they do in the States, but it's a little different in Canada. So it would be nice if we could, I told the people who run the Alliance that I want to put together a raid train and maybe some tournaments throughout the month of June to raise money for Indigenous charities in Canada that support Indigenous Canadians, because all of the charities we fundraised before have gone to like the Indigenous people in the States. And again, I love it. I support it wholeheartedly. Those are our cousins across Turtle Island. But at the end of the day, it'd be nice to like help people here, So we do have that coming up. We don't have the details fully locked in, but it is something that's in the works. So for June, stay tuned. The Indigenous Alliance will have a lot going on. And yeah, just we do a lot of fundraising events. So if you guys are interested in that, you guys can see the Indigenous Alliance stream team just under my name. If that interests you, there's so many different creators who do all sorts of things. We've got artists, gamers, IRL, VTubers. We got everything, and it's so great. So if you guys want to be a part of our growth and supporting us so we can get our word out there, that would be awesome.
Amazing.
I love that so much. And also Turtle Island, if people aren't familiar, is an original name for North America before settlers came and called it something else that they wanted
Exactly.
to
It
call
comes
it.
from one of our creation stories where like we basically came like we lived on a turtle's back. Like, it's basically where it came from, like in the water, So it's lovely.
I
I love
still
that
can't believe the continent's named after a guy who never even stepped foot on it. What?
Yeah.
Americo Vespucci never
So
stepped
funny.
foot on
Wow,
the
part of
continental
history.
United States.
They put a story together and said, we're going to run with this. We're going to teach them, and maybe
gonna
they won't
involve
catch up with us.
pilgrims
Oh,
and turkeys and just confuse them. They won't pay attention.
Yep.
yeah.
He doesn't even go here.
Even go
says
here.
Chad.
Here's the link to Ray's podcast. I think that should show up now. Sorry, my chat auto blocks links.
There we go. Thank you.
Perfect. I
guys
think
wanna
it's shows up in
follow
mine
the-
too now.
I was gonna go digging
Perfect.
for it, but I was like, I'm
Um,
incapable of doing this, and I stopped.
Same.
And
Yeah, there's not much on it yet,
Did
but we're
anyone-
working on it. So
You announced it, and now
Get
it's
on the
gonna
ground
exist.
floor. Yeah.
Exactly. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
Pretend it exists. Pretend it already
Just
exists.
announce it like it exists.
Oh,
Then they can't tell you no.
Angie did post the Alliance link, by the way. If anybody's interested,
perfect.
if you are also an Indigenous viewer right
Awesome.
now, you can apply to be a part of the Alliance. So, sorry, I just wanted to put that out there for you guys.
Get
No
that thing as
sorries.
big as we can.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Was there anyone else sharing their year hopes, dreams, plans? Anybody else?
Yeah, Mordred, did you have anything?
I can share. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, but I finally got fed up with hoping that a newspaper would invite me on and decide that I would just do it myself, do it scared.
Yeah.
So nothing posted on it yet, but I'm almost done with the script for my first big video. I've been kind of shopping it around as being very tonally inspired by Jon Stewart and John Oliver kind
Yes.
of content. But if they were an unhinged brown trans girl, which I think there's a market for. I have the link as well if I can post that, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, please.
Oh,
please
yeah.
do.
There it is. Sorry, I'm keeping up with the cringe Arthurian legend branding. I can't escape it anymore.
It's awesome.
Stay on brand. It makes it easier
I
to
have to commit. I have
makes
to
it easier
commit.
to engage. Just
Yeah. This month. It should be done this month. Because I'm almost done with the script, and then I have to pass it through editing to make sure I'm not accidentally lying, and then I will record it between the trains that pass by my apartment every hour.
wow.
Yeah.
Mood.
Mood. Cool. That's really cool. You said you're working on something, Ari?
So this is all in my heart.
Announce it.
So
Make it exist.
Ray, you're so light years ahead of where I am. But my major was music education. And so I have a heart for, oh wait, there is something that is a little more tangible somewhat. I want to actually build a camp for the youth to understand the music industry and understand that there's more to being an artist than just being the person on the microphone, because there's not a lot of access to understanding that practically every type of job is also needed in the music industry. And so we need engineers, software engineers. My last job was I was a software engineer at a major record label, which I would have never imagined when I was a child also learning about the music industry. So I want to open up a way for them to learn more about it with an emphasis on activism. And so if they like both, I would love that. And so I want to build that out, and then also just create more resources for independent artists to be able to do more art. I think that's kind of one thing that's broken with some of the music industry is you can kind of think, oh, only if I sign a big deal am I going to be able to be heard and feel fulfilled. And it's like, no, it's a thing they want you to think that only with them can you feel fulfilled. And I think if more people are doing art, even at a hobby level, especially for music, because I think every other art has people painting as a hobby and doing all these other things as a hobby, and it's really big. But for music, sometimes, and especially in some communities, it can feel like, oh, well, this doesn't matter because I don't have 100,000 downloads on the first day I put it out. So I want to help people to understand, no, just please make art and share it with other people in music. And then outside of that, maybe dabbling back as an artist myself, because I've done so much music business and technology, but my first heart was in creating art myself. So I'm hoping to maybe write a song this year again. I was a songwriter before, and just pandemic, all the things has kept me away from it. And sometimes the activism, right? I can be like, oh, this is so important that I do this thing for other people. But then I sat and I said, wait, but what made me happy previously? What were the things that really made me feel fulfilled and full and overflowing? And so I'm like, man, I have to figure out a way to get back into that thing. So for this year, gonna try to write at least a song, and maybe that'll be more of a project, but we'll see.
You're gonna do
We
it.
will see.
You're gonna do
Love
it.
it.
Oh,
We
thank
we
you.
look
Oh, I
forward to
needed
seeing
that.
it.
Oh, my heart.
I'm gonna share it with everyone.
Okay.
I'm gonna be bumping it
Thank
at
you.
the
Check
club.
back in on me in like a few months,
You
6
got it.
months.
I'll be checking in. Don't
Ask
you
me what the
worry.
song
I'll be
Will
checking
do.
Oh,
in.
thank you.
I will be stopping by. How's the song going?
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Women
Well,
So that's
supporting
y'all,
me
women.
right now.
it's yeah.
Women supporting women. Yes. Love it.
Y'all, I think that is a beautiful point for us to end our panel on. Chat, do me a favor, go follow all of these incredible, incredible, incredible people. This was so, so special. I'm so happy that we got to have this conversation. And I hope we can continue to have it in the guild and in DMs and wherever you guys want to. Hit me up, literally whatever. This was so, so fun.
I
Chat,
got
thanks
one
for
more
hanging
quote.
out.
Can we end on a quote?
Okay. Yes, please.
So it is really important that I
Okay, wait,
mention.
before you do that, can
Yes,
I
please.
say right before you do that?
No,
Because
go ahead.
before
Go
we
ahead. Yeah.
end, I want to say thank you, Stella. Oh my gosh. You
Yeah.
killed
Thank you
it
so much.
Thank you
with
so much
Nailed
for
hosting this
that.
thing at the like,
Mhm.
we planned this for a year, I think is what we're saying.
It was a year, chat. I was lying. I just wanted to say
Yeah.
that so that we wanted to switch it up on you, and now you think that we're amazing because we are.
Yeah.
Right. Just phenomenal job. I just needed you to know, like the whole time I was like, oh, and the
We're not
follow-ups and the
worthy.
organization. And you killed it.
No,
Thank you
literally.
so much
Yeah.
for volunteering to help us with our panel. And I
Of
wanted to
course.
make sure we
Thank
gave a
you.
few flowers before
Oh, I
we
appreciate
ended
it.
it.
Yes. I'm so glad you got that in because yeah, I would have gone back and did that anyway because yes, you are
Oh, good.
amazing.
Okay.
Yes,
You
thank
are
you,
incredible,
Stella.
and thank you because you did it so effortlessly. You made it look so easy.
Oh,
Yes.
shucks.
Natural. So natural with it.
Look at
Amazing. You should be
chat.
doing panels.
W
I don't know if you've already
stream.
done panels. Yeah.
Okay. This is a quote that I heard from. I did a lot of work with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. Dr. Melina Abdullah is the founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. And if you're not yet following Black Lives Matter Grassroots, those are the actual organizers. If you're not familiar, unfortunately, the original organization was kind of hijacked by the board and investors. So be sure to look up Black Lives Matter Grassroots if you're not yet familiar with that unfortunate event. This is called the Asada. It is a quote by Asada Shakur, and they make sure to end every single meeting with it. And it's so profound. I just want to try to read it to try to share that feeling. It goes, "It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains."
Wow.
I love it. I love it.
Amazing.
Um,
Amazing.
Would you guys like to raid out to? I think it would be fitting because we have a member of the Indigenous Alliance here, and we have one of the leaders of the Indigenous Alliance speaking on another panel right now. Do we want to raid Aretha?
Let's raid Aretha.
Yeah.
Do
it.
is great.
Sure.
I really hope
Can you
they're
post
still
the name in the
going for a little bit. Yes, I'm
Yes,
gonna
the name.
post her link
Do we
in
know
our
how long they've been live?
thread.
I think they go for like 1 more hour.
Perfect.
They end at
Okay.
7 p.m.
Perfect.
PST.
Perfect.
Is it simply Aretha TV? I believe.
I believe so.
That sounds
I
Let me
right.
know
double
she had
check
just
that.
changed it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Simply Aretha TV.
Perfect. So folks in the chat, join up the raid. I'm gonna start mine right now, and maybe we can count it down. We do like a little 3, 2, 1, and we'll send them on their way.
Mm.
And what if we have
Y'all.
a little? I saw a rate message earlier that was like women. They were like doing the snaps. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
raid
the
message. We need a raid
let me
global-
find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just
Let me
have to
go over
say,
that.
I am so grateful that you all exist and do the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Uno
You're
reverse.
also
Hello.
incredible. I'm so glad to be able to have done something like this
Amazing.
with all you.
All right, now
What if
Does
we do
anyone
just
have a
like
raid message?
TWG rolling in?
Nice.
We did that.
And then what's the snap? That was so cute. The purple one
How's that?
with the.
Love it.
Oh, perfect.
You found it.
love it.
Yes,
I
beautiful.
type it out all the time. It used to be the only emote that was in the Women's Guild server.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so
And now
good.
we have a million more. So copy paste that raid message.
it's
We're gonna raid
pretty snaps.
Aretha, who is one of the leaders of the Indigenous Alliance and is so awesome. That's my Twitch Rivals winner.
Ow!
Oh wow.
She's so great. I love her.
She's awesome. She's awesome. So yeah, I mean, all there is to say is just thank you for hanging out. If you found us from the front page and stuck around, hey, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. That was really cool that we got featured on the front page tonight. That was really
so
awesome.
cool.
I had no idea, by the way, that we were gonna be. I was just ready for the conversation. Yeah.
No, it was perfect. It was great. Yeah, I think we got our airtime. It was wonderful. Alrighty. I was about to do my own personal stream outro, and then I was like, wait, there's like so many other people here.
I don't have their name we're rating to, by the way.
I put it in our thread in the Women's Guild server.
Oh,
It's simply
perfect.
Aretha TV.
Okay. Could you type it in the shared chat
Yes.
too, really quickly? That's okay. Thank you. Quick copy paste.
We're raiding.
I'm like the way I'm turned around in Discords. I could understand them so much better.
All right,
Okay,
mine's about to
here we
go.
Mine just
about to
went
go,
off.
Yeah,
So
mine did.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I messed up my
Bye,
count.
everybody. Thank you,
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Mwah. Go make good trouble.
Yeah.